Directing traffic, gonna go deep, has a man deep, it is caught for the touchdown, Corey Davis!
If he has good technique, he will be elite. If his technique becomes great, not just good, then he's a Hall of Famer.
Drive face, full cell vertical, get into the blind spot, and he absolutely burns him. Corner is lost. He literally has no idea where Wilson is.
Really high floor, really high ceiling. We could be talking about the best corner in the league. Sauce can do that.
This is actual film. This is actual football talk. The football show is about football, not storylines.
Excuse my French, but Kyle fucking Smith, what is going on, my friend?
Hey, Joe. Well, listen, man, I'm doing so much better than I have been in, the past couple, I guess, weeks and years. I guess when you're like a rabid fan of a team, football just makes you so much happier and puts you in such a better mood. And especially when your team's playing high quality football, which it's been years since we can say that about the Jets. So I'm doing pretty good. And I assume that you're doing the same.
Yeah. And like I'm assuming where you work at. My voice is still a little bit gone, recovering from Lambeau. If you watch the film review, it's like almost completely gone. So I recovered from a little bit from yesterday, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'm sure like at your school, like you're the Jets guy, so everyone wants to talk about the Jets, and you have to defend how shitty they are, or talk about how shitty they are. So it's like not only film reviews and live streams, it's also people shitting on the Jets consistently out in public or out at work or whatever it is. So like, to have people like, dude, the Jets are actually pretty good this year. It's like, fuck yeah, they are. Like, let's go. It's really exciting. So I'm excited. I haven't talked to you about a win in quite a bit. I haven't talked to you about a meaningful win, I don't think, since we've been podcasting, really, right? Like, and like,
it's crazy to say that. Yeah, it's crazy to say that because, I mean, we would do like appearances here or there like 5-6 years ago, but it was always like off-season type stuff. And then we've been doing this since the 2020 season consistently with each other. And that was the last Adam Gase year, which we were rooting for the tank. So yeah, if you think about it, I mean, and I guess the last meaningful win that we spoke after was probably Tennessee, last year.
Yeah.
And that was maybe the only one. Right.
Yeah,
Or maybe
at that
maybe
point,
Cincinnati.
like the Jets are like relatively out of it, and like Cincinnati, yeah, okay, they win, but it's Mike White and Zach Wilson injured, and then we're like, okay, we had some time in 2017, but Josh McCown, and even in 2015, okay, cool, but the stars of the team who's carrying the team are at that time Revis, who was obviously on his last leg, Fitzpatrick last leg at least with the Jets, Brandon Marshall last leg, so like there's never been a time where it's actually legitimately exciting, or at least this exciting, since easily 2010. And even that team, which like great, they were good, but they also kind of snuck into the playoffs and they weren't built for long-term success. And we didn't really love the quarterback. So this is the most excited I've been about a Jets team in a really long time. And now if they could pull off a W in the next at least 2 games, and you're going into the bye with 5-6 wins, and you're looking at teams like the Jags and the Lions and all these teams on the schedule, we're talking like our expectation point have changed. At least I can speak for myself. But with all that being said, Kyle, I want to catch up with you a little bit about life. So how has the last month been? Pretty chalk. Nothing going on. Nothing crazy.
For me, the last month's been pretty good. I did miss you. I missed you quite a bit, man. It was cool doing it with Natty and stuff, but not the same, and no disrespect to Natty. I mean, like shit, he carried it. I mean, like I told him after we ended the stream, I was like, hey, Blewett does all the work when I do it with him, and you do all the work when I do it with you. So, it's I got an easy job here. But yeah, I did miss you. Go ahead.
Okay, no, sorry. Go ahead. You missed me. Keep talking about it. You missed me. Go ahead. Talk about how much you missed me, Kyle. I love it.
I missed you, but listen, we were getting wins. So, I mean, like, of course I'm going to be happy. And yeah, like you said, with the whole work thing, like, yeah, like, regular people come out, hey, the Jets actually look pretty good now. I was like, yeah. Whereas before, it's like, a couple of years ago, it's like, especially like 2 years ago, it's like, yeah, I know we suck, man. Nobody wants us to lose more than I do. All right. So just go ahead, say whatever nasty comments. It's almost like you were preparing yourself for the insults and stuff. And it's like you could make the insult yourself, but it's like now it's like, yeah, now we get to talk shit and stuff. And now it's like all these players are like, posting tweets and stuff, and I'm liking the players' tweets and stuff versus like, 2 years ago, the social media account would post out like, oh, we're gonna, we got a big game today. It's like, shut up. we want you guys to lose.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a totally different energy, man. And yeah, football's king. And when stuff's going nicely, man, oh man, it's so fun. So I can't wait for Sunday, man.
It is so much more fun to watch games where they're actually like in it, and I can review wins instead of them getting blown out, 38-3 or 38-10 or whatever it is. So it's definitely exciting. And by the way, I watched the one stream at the minimum, and you always talk shit about me not being able to keep up with the chat, and you skipped like an hour of the chat, my friend.
Okay.
So just putting out there, it's a little harder than you think it is.
Let's talk about that, because I did listen to you and Nania's last show, and I was like, okay. So I was like, hold on. I was like, Joe, I never bitched about the chat. The only thing chat related that I ever bitched about was super chats. That's it. Never the chat in general. But like sometimes someone would send like a $10 super chat and you'll get to it like 30 minutes later. It's like, whoa, shouldn't this guy get a little bit of priority? I mean, it's a super chat for a reason. That was my only quibble, not the whole thing.
And the funny thing was too, last stream, like I'm doing it and I'm getting a lot of work done to my house and stuff, and the internet just cuts out and I lose all the chats.
Pissed. You were pissed.
I was not very happy. So I'm hoping it goes well today. I've tried to fix it. It's going a lot faster, which by the way, I did want to shout out a couple people who left super chats, which I couldn't get to because I couldn't see them. Mike Galea, BG the Kid, Daniel Faust, who sent super chats. Some really nice comments from Will, Adis, Scott Wilson, Twisted, Joshua Garduno, Happy Tanking, Rich. I just want to shout you guys out because I did go back and look at the chats because I legitimately felt bad that you guys were talking for an hour and a half and I didn't see any of the chats. So a little bit disappointing there, but yeah, definitely excited to be back, getting back into the grind of it. The house should be finished up with all the construction soon, which I'm very, very excited about because I have not been sleeping at all with all the construction. Obviously, which I didn't even talk about Italy, which I'll talk about maybe later in the stream. We have some time. I made it a little bit earlier so we could talk a little bit more. But Italy, and then I came back on Sunday, flew to Chicago on Thursday, went to the Bears game in the Winnie the Pooh costume, which surprisingly I didn't get a lot of shit for. I thought I was going to get a lot more shit, but I guess they're just so bad they don't really care, especially when you're wearing a Winnie the Pooh costume and a Jets jersey, so it makes them feel like you're a Jets fan, you're calling a soft kind of deal. Like that's at least how I would personally take it, which it kind of was like that. Didn't get a lot of shit, and then Friday hit a bunch of breweries. Saturday we went skydiving.
Saw that.
So if later in the stream you guys want to watch a video, I think I have like a 3-minute video of like going up in the plane and skydiving and like actually parachuting down. And I have a video of just a jump that's like a minute. But if you want to watch a 3-minute video later, we could watch some skydiving because it was fucking awesome. And then obviously Sunday going to Lambeau. Beautiful area, beautiful stadium. The fans are amazing. Even when the Packers are getting blown out and I'm standing on their bleachers doing Jets chants with other Jets fans 2 sections away, like it was amazing. With that being said, I'm happy to be back. I just recorded a film show yesterday, putting out some more plays on Twitter. So back into the grind until January when I go to Costa Rica. And I'm gonna go to Costa Rica and the Jets are gonna be in the fucking playoffs. So we'll hopefully. But
dude, could you imagine you go to Costa Rica and for some strange, unforeseen reason they actually get a home playoff game and you miss the home playoff game?
Yeah,
I think you're gonna have to cancel your Costa Rica trip.
I would cancel. But the thing is, like with that, like thinking about it now, is they'd have to win a division, and like I think there's a legitimate shot the Jets could make the playoffs. And I think at this point, I'm gonna say that I would be a little bit disappointed, like with how they started. If they don't, because of the lack of like true top tier competition for those spots in the AFC. I'd be a little bit disappointed if they didn't make it at this point, like because we got through the hard part of the schedule, and I know some teams maybe look tougher than we thought later in the year, etc. But
you figure they're only going to get better too, because it's a young staff. Wilson, you expect him to only get better and better and better, and all the rooks, Breece, he's getting better week by week, right? Yeah. So, the defense is starting to gel more. I mean, yeah, in theory, they should just continue to get better too. So,
and it's something that we kind of acknowledged before, like the point about them getting better. Like before the season, we said, okay, they're going to struggle, relatively newer coaching staff with a lot of new players, with a lot of young players. They should struggle, and then they struggle, and we're like, what the fuck? Even though still week 1 was not necessarily an excuse. That was a pretty bad game, but it was a few splash plays, and then week 3 was a shit show. But we were also being led by Joe Flacco, top 25 Joe Flacco, which he did not deserve. But yeah, so
hey,
we'll talk about
week 2 against the Browns, the stat line's a little overrated and stuff. I mean, like he had a couple nice throws in there. He missed some in there. I I looked pretty good after the Browns game with the top 20 thing. But after the Bengals game, it was 2 atrocious games. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe the top 20 was a little rough.
The ones I can think about that I still think you're regretting is maybe
him and Michael Carter II. Yes,
Michael Carter II. I think
several times already.
Yeah, Michael Carter II, and
I didn't even argue with you on that one though.
I think I've hit it so far. Yeah, you didn't. You're kind of like, yeah, that's an oversight by me. But I think the next one with Quinn Williams being number 1, I think he's the best player on the Jets right now, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I think you can argue that ABT might be the most valuable because of his position flexibility. But Q is the most dominant player, and like he's finally living up to what I thought he would be coming out of Alabama, and I was one of his biggest supporters. And got shit on a little bit early for it, even though he wasn't playing terribly, but he's been lighting it up. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to say hello to some people in the chat. Jalil, who was here earlier, Joe the Goat, appreciate that. We're obviously going to have some Elijah Moore talk early in here, which I'm going to just scroll past some PFF stuff, which I'm going to scroll past a little bit because we're going to get into that in a little bit. Depth 79 running on Italian time today. Yeah, I was a little bit late. I literally just got back from class and I had to chalk up the live stream, but work and whatever else. So Scott Wilson's he asked a question. Joe, I know it's a tough question, but this is why I love you guys. What is the main issue with our offense versus man coverage? Is it Zach against pressure or our receivers' inability to beat the press? I don't know. Kyle, you want to save this for now or you want to save it for a little bit later? Do you want to hit this now?
You might as well hit it now. You have it on the screen now. So
okay, do you want to hit it first or you want me to hit it first?
He asked you, so you go first.
He said, I love you guys, though. He didn't say why I love you. But nonetheless.
But he did say Joe, very first word.
I think it's a combination. You're seeing man. Typically, we're going to see some pressure, and Zach has really good numbers, and he's been pretty good when he's in the pocket clean this year. But he does start to panic a little bit when he's facing pressure, and he'll rush reads or stay on reads too long. But another problem with man coverage is, listen, and Garrett Wilson was great early, and I still think he's going to be a very, very good receiver. Garrett Wilson was not and this is what I hear consistently, and this is why I know what I know, and sometimes I hear people say stuff that's just not true. He was not great against press coverage at Ohio State. He was not great on the outside. It was one of the questions I had about him where I said I think he has to play in the slot because his.
You know what's funny about that too is like, okay, so he had the nice fade route for a touchdown week 2 against the Browns, and some receiver or some corners did struggle pressing him a little bit, and for some reason, and listen, oh man. I'll just go out and say his name. This is me. This is not representative of Jets X Factor or whatever, but I kept seeing Chris Nimbley, Jets beat reporter, saying, oh, one of the reasons, the Jets drafted Garrett Wilson is they love what he can do against press coverage. Like he said that on numerous occasions and stuff, as if like he had inside sources in the building saying that this is a huge reason why they drafted him. It's like, yeah, I'm not seeing that. No. But like, so like a bunch of people really early on the season, they kept saying that was a huge strength of his, but it's interesting, like how you're seeing the past couple of weeks. It doesn't look like it's such of a strength of his.
That and Elijah Moore, Kyle, and you can attest to this. And the good thing is there are film reviews out there that are 2-3 hours. One of the questions I had about him at Ole Miss was he worked into a lot of space. Not necessarily that it was a weakness per se at Ole Miss, but it was a question I had because he didn't see it a lot. So it was a big question. How is he going to face press coverage in the NFL? And I don't think he's the best in press coverage in the NFL. And we'll talk about Elijah Moore, obviously. But the one route that he was targeted deep in this game, which Zach didn't make a bad decision with that. He kind of like, I think it was pre-snap identification. He knew he had Elijah Moore deep, at least a deep shot. But Elijah Moore struggles with his releases. He consistently uses a split release or a gather step and then bows his routes out, and he doesn't stack guys. So he's not the best vertical receiver, and he's getting
he's not a listen. Contested catches, like if it's like something over the middle where he can extend his arm, okay, but he's not like an over the shoulder type of contested catch guy. You're not going to see him like high point the ball. Yeah, that's just not his game. So and Nania, kudos to him. I don't know if he put the graphic together himself or like he got the numbers from somewhere or he crunched the numbers himself, but he put like Garrett Wilson side by side with Elijah Moore and like what type of routes they're running. And Elijah Moore was like 33% go balls.
Yeah,
like that's an insanely high number, which if you like, honestly, Elijah Moore, like he's got good speed. And like, I was saying this, like on one of the streams with Nania, like double moves on like a go route, I can live with it, like a slant and go type of thing. or even like, Corey Davis obviously had and you highlighted this in your film review, which I did watch earlier today, where he ran like the out and up.
Dude, I gotta interrupt you. Ian Rappaport, Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore, frustrated with his role and usage, has asked for a trade. The team, we have no plan to trade him at all. Dude, I'm just gonna say it. Like, if that's true, what a bitch, bro. What an absolute bitch. But continue with what you're saying.
And that's like from the official Rap Sheet Twitter account, not one of these fake ones.
Ian Rappaport, the former second rounder, was targeted once to win.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, dude. So he's not. So the Jets are winning. He comes out. He's this team guy. AJ Brown hypes him up about how great of a dude he is and how he helped him, beat his suicide and all this shit. And he doesn't get targeted for a few games when Zach is back. And now he wants a fucking trade when the Jets are winning. Zach Wilson threw the ball 18 times. And yes, like you said, and I said in the review, during that review, I said he's being used too much vertically. He needs to be used more crossing routes, more over the middle, more slants, more just more over the middle in general. And he was being used as a clear out receiver vertically. But the fact that he didn't get targeted last week and in the last couple of weeks, and now he's asking for a trade after year 2, get rid of him. Goodbye. We have no dude. This team with Sauce and Breece and AVT and Dwayne Brown and all these fucking guys who are great teammates. This guy was clearly a false good guy. He was a bitch. Sorry. Goodbye. I'm fucking burn my Elijah Moore jersey now. What a joke, dude. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how quick like a fan can turn on a player. Like,
dude.
And
well, the thing is, like, and sorry, Carl, we're gonna talk about it. Like, coming home from the airport, like I see that I'm sitting down waiting for my gate to let me in or whatever, or to board, and I see that he quotes Rich Tomini that he's not targeted. He says, "Oh, well, I don't want to I don't want to be the bad guy if I tweet this, but at the same time, I'm still fucking tweeting it." And then deletes it all this shit. But are you kidding me? Like, after we're on a 3-game winning streak, Zach Wilson came back. Comeback win against the Steelers, a blowout against the Dolphins, a blowout in Lambeau, and it's early in the season. Who's to say your role can't change? And now you want to trade?
Right?
Why? Because you talked to the coaches, everything was good, and now you're getting soft because a bunch of Jets fans are talking shit to you on Twitter. Most likely, like, get rid of him. Fuck him. If he's gonna be that guy and he's not gonna play to the team thing, to the team game, then get like obviously we should get rid of him now. But like, oh my god.
Honestly, though, if you get rid of him, especially if you get rid of him now, you're not gonna get what his value is. Like, think about it. You got him for 3 years on a very manageable contract. And if you're trading him because of sour grapes or whatever, and it's during the season and like, teams like, obviously they're not going to be able to tailor their scheme so much. Like, you're going to get him for, would you even get a 1st-round pick for him? I don't think so. Like, his stat, what is this? Look at his stat line right now. Teams would use that in a negotiation. So, and okay, even if you get a pick, you're losing a premium receiver, and your offense is going to start to struggle more. So I'm not really in favor of trading him. But to your points that you've been making,
you got to get rid of him.
Like, okay, when though? Like, what you don't have? Like, okay, if you get rid of him, you can try to sign a receiver in free agency or whatever, or you can draft hopefully your next stud receiver. But you can't do that this year. And this is Zach's big development year. We were talking about year 2, year 3 development years for Zach. He needs to take huge strides. You're getting rid of, his top 2 receiver. I mean, that's not good.
Dude, it's such a hard spot because like you're saying, like he's still a very good receiver, but this team is like flowing right now with each other in terms of how much they care about each other and all this stuff. And
I know.
And we questioned the personal day thing today, and look what happens. He took a personal day, requested a trade. Like, it's because you're not getting targeted for 3 games. Like, that's you couldn't have a conversation with Michael Floor.
So let's try to be level-headed about this and see why is he. And I'm just shooting thoughts right off the top of my head. Why is he requesting a trade? Okay, if we're gonna blame anybody for his lack of touches and stuff at this point in the season, it'd probably be more on the offensive coordinator than Zach Wilson, right? I mean, like, Zach Wilson's not the one who's choosing to send him on go balls 33% of the time as an X receiver on the line of scrimmage where you can press him, right? Like, that's not Zach Wilson's call. But part of me wonders, okay, Elijah Moore wants a trade. That's a career-altering move. Is any part of Elijah Moore say, Zach Wilson ain't the guy, I want some other quarterback throwing me the ball, right?
Can you say that?
I'm wondering that
Zach
because
Wilson,
Well, he also did play with Zach last year, and his bigger numbers came when Zach wasn't throwing him the ball. So you know, I know that they're friends and everything, and Zach's been nothing but supportive of Elijah Moore. And you know, even when they drafted Zach Wilson, he was on social media posting clips about how Elijah Moore's a bad dude and whatever. And Zach Wilson's obviously taking him on trips and things like that. And, you know, whatever else, they're going to, you know, high schools and Pop Warner games or whatever together and signing, you know, kids' jerseys and whatever. So like, I think Zach's been nothing but supportive of him, but Elijah might be thinking like, well, my stat line, I played 15 games with Zach Wilson or whatever. It's, you know, not what I expected it to be. So I'm speculating. I'm just thinking out loud here, guys. I don't have any specific ideas or whatever, but this is really, honestly, this is very disappointing from Elijah Moore. I mean, the team, dude, your team just won 3 games in a row. I know
so
that
he's
your
a good
stat
guy
line,
if he's getting numbers. That's when he's a good guy. He's getting numbers. So clearly he's just a false good guy. Like it's like, I'm not saying he's a bad
would Elijah Moore be a lot
he's
happier right now if, let's say, the Jets got, you know, beat by 10 points by the Packers and they were trying to catch up late in the game, and Elijah Moore, because the Jets are throwing the ball to get back in the game like Joe Flacco was the first 3 weeks of the season, and Elijah Moore had a stat line of 80 receiving yards a game, but it came when you know, the defense was playing a lot of soft coverage and just giving him a bunch of underneath stuff. So his stat line looks okay, which is, you know, I guess going to be good for contract negotiations a couple of years down the road. But I mean, your team lost the game. So like,
no, he's clearly that guy. He's that guy to, okay, you know, we lost the game by 30 points, but I got my 8 catches for 100 yards. I'm happy. I look good. But what a joke, dude. Like year 2, 6 games in, you're requesting a trade. Like that looks so shitty on him as just an overall football player. So, but like you said, like, okay, you are in a position this year where you're legitimately competing for the playoffs at this point, right? And you're getting rid of, I would say, the second, probably it's hard to say exactly who's the most talented. He's one of the more talented receivers we've seen in the last few years for the Jets, and his rookie year was very, very good. And even this year, he was being misused, to be completely frank. But you can have meetings with LaFleur and ask for your role to be changed and whatever else. And regardless, you're winning football games. Like you
listen,
see
LaFleur, sorry, go.
You see
ahead,
Uzama come out, who's had like 6 catches this year, and every single game he's grabbing the Jets win cam and shaky and let's go Jets, and he's fucking pumped up. Like those are the guys we need. And Elijah Moore, he projects himself like that, but clearly he's not. But at this point, again, like, so how does this affect Michael Carter? Michael Carter's like his best friend. How does this affect the locker room if he's in that locker room and they're all, you know, really tight-knit group, and he's clearly not going to be happy. He doesn't want to be there. It's a lot different when a guy who is as talented as he is and involved as he is wants to trade than Denzel Mims, who's not even dressing up or dressing for games, not dressing up. It's not Halloween yet, but you know what I'm saying? So go ahead.
And listen, if Joe Douglas does trade him just because he's crying and stuff, then Joe Douglas is setting another precedent and showing more evidence that whenever you're a crybaby, you can get out, because Jamal Adams was a crybaby and Joe Douglas did trade his ass. Now it ended up being a great trade for the Jets, but you know, this one, you know, if Elijah Moore goes and becomes a star somewhere else, might not look like a great trade. Now I want to agree with you and maybe disagree with you a little bit on various points. Like you said, okay, go talk to Michael LaFleur and stuff, which he did. And I think that that's good. Like, you know, listen, if you're a player and you know you have outstanding talent, you should be talking back and forth with your coach. Hey, listen, this is what we did at Ole Miss. I was really good at doing this. I think I'm good at doing this. Maybe not so good at doing this. You know, how can we, it's a collaborative effort. It's called team sports for a reason, right? So like, and any good coach worth his salt is going to listen to a player, and, you know, that doesn't mean that they'll necessarily do everything the player's requesting, but they'll at least hear what they have to say. So if Michael LaFleur is any halfway of a decent coach, he would listen to his players and at least, you know, start to rethink things. Comparing him to Uzama, I mean, like, I get it. Uzama is known as like this big hype man, high character guy. I would say that it's maybe not the best comparison in the world, and here's why. So like Uzama, like, this is his last big contract. He's on it right now. He's got to be the good statesman, and hopefully he can play all 3 years with the Jets and get every last dollar worth of this contract that he signed, because he's not going to get another big payday. So he has to be the good hype man, the good citizen, the good teammate. He has to be that. Elijah Moore, on the other hand, he's on a rookie contract right now. He's not getting top dollar. He wants to get that $100 million that his buddy AJ Brown just got. In order to do that, he needs to start putting up some damn numbers. So I can understand why CJ Uzama is going to be happy with, being a lead blocker on a Braxton Berrios touchdown, but why Elijah Moore is not going to be so happy with having 0 catches and 0 targets when you factor in the penalty that, didn't count his go route. So maybe not the direct comparison, but I get it. Like one player's bitching, one isn't. So fair point. And let's say if, let's say Uzama was several years younger or whatever, and he was a better talent and stuff, would it be in his nature, his personality to complain? I don't know. But it does make you think like, okay, a lot of this whole Elijah Moore, God got me stuff. Maybe some of it was, I always thought for years,
God's plan. I love my teammates.
God's got a plan,
God told me to get a trade.
Yeah. He probably had his prayers answered and stuff, and God, showed him the light or whatever. But I always thought that with Jamal Adams, I always thought with Jamal Adams, it was like a kind of like a fake niceness, like I felt like he was always projecting himself to be something that he wasn't. I didn't necessarily get those vibes with Elijah Moore. But I mean, I guess he's kind of showing his true colors now, because dude, I would almost maybe kind of get it if like this was December and like clearly like you're open so many times and Zach Wilson's just not looking your way for whatever reason. He's just looking to Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis.
Three games
that you won and you didn't need to pass the ball.
And you're 4-2 and you're on a winning streak and he consistently pushes himself as a team guy. Clearly he's not a team. He's a me guy. Clearly,
yeah, he said all I ever wanted. We got the wins. All I ever wanted. Clearly, it's not all you ever wanted.
I'm not trying to say anything, but here's me saying something. You fucking idiot! Like, what a joke, dude. 3 game, like he's public enemy number 1 for Jets fans. At least for me. Like, get the fucking rid of him. I don't. I think they get
a lot of Jets.
I think they can get
have his back and say like.
I think they can get early first or sorry, a late first or an early second for him. I do. Just based on the contract and based on the talent he is.
Okay, well, you already drafted him for an early second. You drafted him for an early second. So like, anything less than that is a straight loss for me, because now Zach Wilson, you totally, if you knew you had to trade him and get rid of him, you would have tried to get another receiver in free agency or potentially drafted another receiver too. And listen, Corey Davis, like he's been really good this year so far, but he's got injury history and stuff. So like, what if you trade Elijah Moore and then Corey Davis goes down for a decent amount of games? Your offense is going to start to get really limited.
DJ Moore, Elijah Moore to DJ Moore.
Somebody did say that in the chat. Somebody mentioned that in the chat. Shout out to whoever that was. Yeah, I don't know. The thing with that is DJ Moore already has a pretty big contract. I feel like it's a loss for you.
I'm not comfortable with Elijah Moore Elijah Moore. I'm not comfortable with Braxton Berrios being the number 3 in this offense. No. And you're limiting yourself at that point, because like you much rather now run 12 person. Like you're losing a big talent at the end of the day, like regardless of what sets we're going to run all this stuff. But I could not believe that happened. I didn't know out of nowhere. Like, and again, like you said too, like he didn't necessarily always project himself as like a Michael Carter team guy. But people are kind of relieved in different ways. But it's just crazy. That's all he projects about the team and about how great he is for AJ Brown and how well he's going to lift up the organization. And it's been 3 games of him not getting targeted and he wants fucking out. Like what a joke, dude. And I would understand if we're losing, and I still would understand your second year player on a 4-year contract. But if we're losing games and you're not getting targeted, like, okay, I get the frustration, but you're blowing teams out and you're winning and you're a team guy. That's all you want. So beyond frustrating, Kyle, I would say, anything less than an early 2nd round pick or a 2nd round pick from a bad team, and just get back what you invested in him. Which again, I think he's better than Kadarius. I mean, like I felt like he was really worth a late 1st round pick in that draft. But
we had even after he started to break out last year, we started throwing questions around. Is he better than Jalen Waddle? At least I threw that question out there, and I didn't say that he was for sure. I just questioned it. Like, is it fair to say that he's better than Jalen Waddle? I know Jalen Waddle's faster and everything like that, but does Elijah Moore have like a better, is he a better route runner overall, better hands catcher and things like that? Is he a better receiver? Was a question that I had. And I think last year, after like, his Dolphins game and thing like that, I think it was a legitimate question. But I mean, honestly, I've been a little bit disappointed in his game, but I think I've been more frustrated with how the coaches have used him. But I don't think that's something. I mean, like, listen, coaching staffs are trying to figure out shit all year. You can always constantly, change and switch things up. So I like I said, if I was Elijah Moore, I'd be more pissed at the staff. And it makes you wonder, like, okay, why did he request this trade? Did he walk away from that meeting with LaFleur and Saleh and say, they're not going to use me differently? They're just, meeting with me to try to calm me down, but they're not actually taking what I have to say seriously. Is that part of the reason why he's mad? I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating here.
Could you see this leaking into Michael Carter, who's his really good friend, and it seems like a guy in Breece Hall is taking 20 runs a game, and I think Michael Carter last game only had like 6 or 7. Like, do you think that affects him, who legitimately seems like one of his best friends, if not his best friend?
I don't see how it couldn't affect it at least somewhat, man, because you're always going to want to like side with somebody who you're friends with. It's just natural and everything. Like I was just watching Coach Vass, who does like a lot of good like all 22 breakdowns on college and NFL film and stuff, and he was like saying like, hey, listen, he was saying like, anybody who I'm friends with publicly, I'm not going to bash their defense. Like he's a big defense guy. He's like, if I know, he's pretty cool with Dean Pease, Falcons defensive coordinator. He's like, listen, I'm not going to say anything bad about his defense publicly. He's like, somebody who I don't know though, it's natural. I would say something bad about him. So it would be natural for Michael Carter to take Elijah Moore's side, to answer your question. But shit, man. I mean, like, it's not a good situation to be in. Not a good situation for sure.
No, and like you said, like,
but here's the thought that came to my head. My head. It's so interesting how the NFL is like changing, man. Think about all the wide receiver trades we saw this offseason. AJ Brown, almost Debo, Hollywood Brown, right? And I might be missing another big one in there. Am I missing another big one in there? I feel like I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Damn, I feel like I am missing one more. Or Tyreek Hill, duh. So it's so interesting, like how we see trades all the time in the NBA, right? It's nothing unusual or whatever. But the NFL for the longest time, like you didn't really see premium players in the prime of their career getting traded away. But now it's kind of like, these players can just cry and demand a trade. Like think about Deshaun Watson. I know his trade thing got, held up and stuff with the whole legal issue, whatever, but it's like, it's so much more common now. And I don't know, personally, I don't like it. I like the fact
it's the me error, but it's just like, I get your point, like logically about you might not be able to get what he's worth. And I see Snoopy in the chat a bunch, and I'm gonna get to a bunch of the chat.
It's not just worth. It's about what Zach Wilson's going to throw to.
But I know, but I legitimately do think like, okay, the Chiefs right now, like they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Would they give their first round pick right now for Elijah Moore, get him in early enough so that he can get acquainted to the system and all of that by the playoffs? I think you can get a late first room. I especially with Joe Douglas and his trade history, I think you could. That's probably the Jets are saying there's absolutely no way they're going to trade him, is to have teams hopefully hike up that price, but late or early second, like very early second from one of the very bad teams at the absolute minimum. But I think a team like the Chiefs maybe could talk the Packers into it if you give them a little bit more, because they're not, obviously, I don't think they're going to finish with the 24th or like the 28th, 29th, 30th pick or anything like that. But so while I understand waiting, I can't have a cancer in my locker room with how well the team is
I get it.
Gelling.
Cancer, you want him out. You don't want cancers. Listen, you're about high quality football players. And Joe Douglas has said since day one, we're going to build the best football culture in the league. And he thought that Elijah Moore was that. And Robert Saleh even affirmed that recently. Like he saw it a couple of days ago. He's like, yeah, we talked with Elijah and he's one of our high character guys. Okay. Clearly, maybe not so much the case. So here's my question for you, Joe. For me, I'm not really interested in trading him away just for a draft pick because that doesn't help you this year. We're talking about legit playoff contention this year, right? And the crazier things that happened. The Bengals made the Super Bowl and almost won it last year.
I see what you're saying. Trading for Jesse Bates. I see you.
No, not at all. Even though he's a pretty good player. But anyway, so here's my thing for you. Okay, I'm not interested in just trading him for a draft pick. Maybe if you get a draft pick and something else. Okay, let's say Joe, you got to trade him for a player, all right? Like what players would you be interested in acquiring? Because like, okay, if I got to trade, if I have to, absolutely, I can't put this fire out. I got to get rid of him for a player. Which player do you want in return that's actually realistic?
I would have to start looking at bad teams who aren't going to.
It doesn't have to be a receiver. It doesn't have to be a receiver because you might not be able to get one.
I would say a safety. And I like people. I see somebody in the chat mention.
Someone said
Roquan Smith. Yeah, I see people talk about Roquan Smith. The thing is, like, right now, and I know we can't necessarily rely on these guys to necessarily produce what they've been producing the last couple of weeks, but Quan and Quincy have been pretty damn good the last couple of weeks. So I still think safety is a need for this team, and we'll talk about that in a little bit when going over this game. Obviously, we just got hit with massive news live, but the safeties have been playing decent, but the pass rush is covering up some of their problems. I can say that with 100% certainty they are. So if you could get him for a very good safety, we have to start running through some teams. It's like, do you trade him? Okay, let's say I don't know. It's really hard to think about this on the spot, but like Jeremy Chin and a 5th round pick for Elijah Moore, like something like that. Would you do for like a Jeremy Chin and something else? Because I'm trying to think of safeties. I guess you could talk about a linebacker.
I don't know enough about Chin to really be able to say. I mean, people do hype him up a lot, but I couldn't really say with him.
Yeah.
I'd have to love a safety. There's no safeties that, I mean, like Bates. Bates is like, he's getting up there. Justin Simmons, he's also like 20. I know safety's a need for the team for sure, but some of these safeties that are potentially on the block, I'm not really interested. Truthfully,
we have to run through some teams and
Elijah Moore's like what, 23?
Yeah, 22, 23. We'd have to look at receivers, safeties, linebackers. But
some people keep saying Claypool. I have no interest in Chase Claypool.
Absolutely not. You're talking about getting rid of a cancer for another cancer. Absolutely not. You're not getting.
And Claypool's not even good, man. Like, he's not even good.
No, he's overrated. He's overrated. So, and we could talk about this fraction in the locker room. And you talked about like, okay, it's easy to request out and get out because Joe Douglas is trading guys. But at the same time, like, I don't want guys here who don't want to be here. Like, that's what their brand is about. Like, get these football guys who love the Jets, who love being here. Like, you can see Breece Hall in the videos, which we're talking about, like, how fun this team is. And like, I actually like listening to interviews now, and I actually like watching one Jets drive. And like, he's just walking out of the locker room, like pointing at the Jets sign, like New York Jets and all that stuff, like hyping up the Jets. Like, people love being part of this team right now. Like, you have Dwayne Brown, who could have signed that check and cashed out and got the surgery and sat out for the rest of the year, but he wanted to come back and play with his teammates. Like, there's people who are legitimately excited about this Jets team. So I don't think this is going to fracture the locker room. I don't. Maybe it hurts, a guy like Michael Carter, guys who are really close to Elijah Moore, but I think they understand that the Jets are they're successful right now. They're pounding the ball down team's throat. The defense is playing well, so it's not like they're losing and they're playing bad on offense. Like,
you have to think there's a good amount of guys in these locker room that are like, fuck Moore, man. He's not happy with us winning. I mean, think about it. How many, if we could put the truth serum in his teammates and ask them, hey, listen, Elijah Moore, you guys just won 3 games and you won 2 of them in very convincing fashion. The other one you won in Pittsburgh, a place you don't win that often. You had a nice comeback. Your young quarterback showed some real nice moxie in the 4th quarter. And you're 3-0 since your future quarterback has returned. Elijah Moore, he's requesting a trade because, he's not getting the ball and stuff. And even when he is, getting the ball thrown to him, I mean, let's be honest, he could be doing more on those routes, right? What do you think? You want him here still? Hey, listen, Elijah's a good talent, man, but fuck him. If he's not happy with Breece Hall, running the ball 100-something yards and a couple touchdowns, fuck him, get him out of here. We'll get something else. I bet you a good amount of players would say that, truthfully. Honestly, if I wasn't super close to the player, like when I was on teams, the me guys, we played with a good amount of people who were good talents, but the me guys, I could care less for them, truthfully, as a player.
Yeah. So. And even I don't want to say it like this because you're not going to take pennies to the dollar for the trade, but and maybe it's the fan part of me talking, but I don't want him on this team next week. I want him traded today, like tonight. Get rid of him. Like I don't want him here. And I still do think you can get relatively good trade package for him, but like you said, like now you have to weigh out picks for next year versus help this year because you're in a playoff spot right now with the hard part of the schedule over. And teams like the Jaguars and the Lions and the Bears and all these teams coming up where you should expect at this point the Jets to win at least another, 4 or 5 games. But like I said, for the team guy, the guy that's all about God, all about God's direction and all this stuff to come out and ask for a trade after 3 weeks of Zach Wilson, we're on a 3-game winning streak and the team is producing is an all-time bitch move. It really is. Like it is one of the softest things I've seen.
He's in his second year too. He's in his second year too. And here's the thing too, like if any part of him is pissed about the whole Zach Wilson thing, let's remember when Zach got healthy, Elijah Moore got banged up. they didn't play with each other for those last 4 or 5 games when Zach actually started to like, play better. Like, so, if Elijah Moore, if any of it is like, oh, I don't think Zach's the guy to, the future to help me, give me the best numbers so I can get the best contract in the future. If any of it's that, like, I can't think like, okay, AJ Brown, he's mad. He wants to trade. And I have to think that a big part of the reason why Elijah Moore is requesting a trade is because his boy, AJ Brown, got his trade, was traded to a good team and got the $100 million contract. But like, it's hard to think of an example of a second-year guy in season after your team won 3 games in a row and your young quarterback's undefeated, and there's so much young, nice talent and energy on this team, and you're requesting a trade. I can't think of another example. I really can't. Can you think of another one? Like, off-season trades, I kind of get it. New coaching staff,
I can't think about a second-year player in general requesting a trade.
And someone just said, let's see, Arturist, Garrett is clearly better. Part of me wonders too, okay, does Elijah Moore know that the staff thinks Garrett Wilson's better? Think about it too. Think about this. Clearly the Packers
I'm thinking about
Garrett
it, Kyle.
Wilson was better.
I'm thinking about it.
Clearly the Packers thought Garrett Wilson was better. Let's steer Jair Alexander, potentially the best cover corner in the league. Let's stick him on man coverage and have him trail Garrett Wilson all game. Meanwhile, we don't give a fuck who's covering Elijah Moore. Like, part of maybe Moore feels a little disrespected and stuff, and knows that, okay, other teams are seeing Garrett Wilson as a better player, and the Jets staff sees Garrett Wilson as a better player, and he might just be jealous and stuff too.
Hey, well, listen, maybe if he didn't quit on his route in fucking Pittsburgh, Zach Wilson would want to target him more. Maybe they see that on the film. They're like, fuck this guy. Like the Jets are all
by the way,
about
that wasn't a one-time thing too.
No, you've been saying that since he's gotten drafted, that he gives up on routes. So credit to you. And we started to take note of that. And that route, I severely, severely doubt Mike LaFleur is going to design a back-breaking route with an over route coming into it. So he either ran the wrong route, which bad, or he saw he wasn't going to be open vertical. And clearly, at this point, he's a me guy. I'm not winning vertical. I'm going to break back, and maybe I'll get that one catch, and I'll be happy. So he gave up on the fucking route because he wanted to catch the ball, and maybe the Jets saw it. And I'm obviously I am reaching here a lot, but like the Jets aren't about those me guys. Like the Jets are going to win in 12 personnel if they need to, 13 personnel, 21, 22. Whether it be Uzama getting 80 yards, which probably will never happen, or Michael Carter or Breece Hall, it does not matter. They just want to win, and that's a part of like the 49er system. Like people are going to take his side, but like they kind of just ride the hot hand and do what's working. Like. So I don't necessarily like the way he's been used, but dude, to request a trade after this winning streak.
Do you think you could get him for Debo at this point? Like Debo, and maybe you'd have to give up something else. After they took that such a hard stance. I'm just trying to think because like, the 49ers aren't exactly winning right now. Like they talked about being competitive this year. And the thing is Debo is still really young.
That and he just had a massive contract too, So like why would they trade him?
I don't think they would. I'm trying to listen. That would I'd be hopeful with something like that. This is not good. This is not good news for the Jets. Not good news.
I'm going to read out some of the bottom teams in the NFL, some of the basement dwellers, Kyle, and just stop if we can think of any players who, again, safety and the chat too. Safety, linebacker, which again, a linebacker I wouldn't love right now, but I would get it, or receiver. Raiders. I don't see anybody young there who they necessarily trade, right? Broncos, I doubt it with a new staff that they're going to want to get rid of players. They might be in a hot seat already, right? Browns, no, right? Steelers, Minka, you just talking shit about the Jets?
You trade him for Deontay Johnson. I know you would.
Oh yeah, I would. I like Deontay.
Deontay's nice. He is nice.
Yeah, we have the Jaguars, who are a young rebuilding team. You don't think they would want to get rid of any of their players. Texans are a young rebuilding team. There's not really anything I could think about on their team that they would want to get rid of. I know somebody said like Brandon Cooks and something for Elijah. If that was absolute worst case scenario, I would do that rather than just a draft pick. Like get Brandon Cooks because he could be here for another couple of years, but not necessarily ideal there. And now in terms of the NFC, we have the Commanders.
They're not trading Jahan Dotson. I mean, they just gave Terry the big contract, so why would they be willing to part with?
Yeah. I'm still not thinking of the losing records. Cardinals. I can't think of any. What is Buddha's contract looking like? How old is he?
Buddha Baker. He can't be older than like 26 or 27.
But then again, like Cliff Kingsbury's on a hot seat too. Like, are they going to want to get rid of guys when they're fighting for their jobs as well? I don't think so. The Bears.
Well, Kingsbury's desperate for receivers. I mean, they just traded for Robbie Anderson, so he's certainly desperate to have his offense clicking.
Do they have anything at linebacker we'd be interested in?
Don't they have Simmons, Isaiah Simmons? But
Isaiah Simmons? Really. Like I don't know. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head.
We're reaching here.
Bears,
okay. Like even
Lions,
if they
Panthers,
like for them to get a defensive player, like it would have to be someone like I'm really high on. Like you mentioned Roquan Smith. Like when you're talking about an eventual CJ Mosley replacement, because I can't see CJ being here past the following year. You know? So like, okay, when you're talking about an eventual replacement for him, could Roquan be that guy long term? But I don't know, man. And the problem, like, this is not like we need like. I'm not like, listen. I've been okay with what Zach has done in 3 weeks, but I was kind of disappointed. Like I think you labeled it a below average game last week. I need to see more and more from him. But when we trade Moore away, Elijah Moore,
the only thing that's going to make things more comfortable is like not necessarily comfortable because you never want a guy to request a trade who has legitimate talent, but like he has contributed 0 to the offense the last 3 weeks, and they're still winning. So at the end of the day, it's not like he's been getting 8 catches for 60, 70 yards the last couple of weeks. He's running like clear out routes, so it's not like he's.
And by the way, we want to talk about blocking. He's the worst blocker out of all of our receivers.
Oh, for sure.
Facts.
Which I'm sure the Jets staff takes note of. But I'm sure we'll hit this in a little bit too. But my God, I just wanted to have a normal show. Of course.
Someone said, Kyle and Joe, Vikings offer Thielen and a 2. You say yes? I would do Thielen and a 2. Thielen and a 2? You're getting a second-round pick and Thielen?
But yeah, how old is Thielen?
You're getting a second-round pick. You said you'd do it for a second-round pick.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're right. No, you're right. Because I was thinking about Thielen. I want like a young player, but at the end of the day, Thielen's what? What is his contract? How old is he?
You only keep Thielen for a year or 2, but you got the second-round pick, so you start to think about the long term as well.
Yeah,
but you at least have a guy who could step in this year and
what about Justin Jefferson? Just straight up, you do that. The thing about like the Thielen, like, so yes, he's good, but my only problem with Thielen is like I'm kind of rethinking honestly because the Vikings are 5-1 right now. So you're talking about does Thielen make up the difference between a very late second and an early second or an early first? A early second or a late first. Like, I rather reach for a Chiefs late first round pick than I would rather have a late second and Thielen.
I think you're downplaying so much the value of this year though, Joe. Like we need to find answers about Zach Wilson this year. Like you're talking, we have a 2-year window to figure out if he's the guy for the future. All these
Kyle
teams,
Pitts.
they get. I would do it for Kyle Pitts. Yes.
Okay, so right now,
which by the way, he's not happy with his usage in Atlanta.
So Elijah and what for Kyle Pitts? If you do that right now,
Elijah and maybe a late 3rd round pick or something. Or
I was going to say a
4th.
3rd. Honestly, you might.
You could do that. I mean, Pitts is the 4th overall pick, so I mean, like, they're not going to give him away for peanuts.
It would probably. I honestly feel like it would probably be like Elijah and a 2nd for Pitts, but his talent, dude.
That would be a block. When have you ever seen a blockbuster trade with 2 young guys like that who are so young in season?
If you could do it right now for Elijah Moore and a 2nd round pick for Kyle Pitts, you doing it? I'm doing it. I'll answer it first. I'm doing it because I think the Jets' 2nd round pick this year is going to be 45, 46.
Kyle Pitts is a unicorn,
50.
so I would do it. I would do it. Listen, Kelsey's so great in his own right, and Kittle's very unique too, and Kittle's obviously a better blocker, and Kelsey's a better blocker than Pitts too. But like when you talk about the different ways that you could use Pitts, like Garrett Wilson, like you want to talk about Elijah Moore's versatility, being able to move him in and out, and I've talked about that ad nauseum. You even have more versatility with Pitts because you could split him out wide, you could put him in line. You can move him all over the place, man. You could put him as you could put him as a big slot and kind of use him the way that they used Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall from time to time back in 2015. And he wowould miss a beat wherever you put him. So
listen, I would Pitts in a 2nd right now. Sign me up, sign me up. Because like people are talking about like his fitness system, and I think he could be a decent blocker. Like I don't think he's ever going to be a stud blocker. but he's a quasi receiver. Like, you figure out how to use a guy like that. Now again, are we reaching a little bit? Would they ever trade Kyle Pitts this drafted number 4 overall? Probably not. But thinking about guys who aren't happy with their roles right now, and they need a receiver, I guess. I don't know. But Kyle Pitts, that's easy to answer. Kyle Pitts, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. We'll trade him for one of those guys, right? It's fine. We have no super chat.
No way Jamar Chase is going anywhere.
No, I know. Jan, missed you guys as well. And yes, Elijah.
Yeah, thank you so much for the super chat.
Appreciate the $20. We got another one down here. I'm going to get back to the other chat, which I'm sure is going to be a shitload of Elijah Moore and then some other random stuff. We'll hit the random stuff. We still have to get to the game because that still matters, because we're talking about the Jets who actually contribute to the team, who are team guys who want to see this team win, who are happy about the team being on a 3-game winning streak, not the guys who are completely phonies, just a complete fraud. And it's funny, like, both the guys on this team last couple of years who were just all the God stuff, all the tweeting about God, Jamal Adams, Elijah Moore.
Was Jamal Adams a big God guy, tweeting about God a lot? Because I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I know he's always the Prez. I always find the Prez thing so cringy.
Yeah, no,
Prez.
It is cringy. We have another super. Wow, there's 1,000. Literally, it has to be at least 1,000 chats from the last of that super chat. Like, it is absurd. Okay, this is another super chat from Jacob Finnegan. Brandon Cooks and a third for Elijah and a 6th. I don't think you have to do Elijah and a 6th. Brandon Cooks and a third. Brandon Cooks is what, 27, 26 years old.
And he just did sign a new contract, so I think you'd have him under control for like another 3 years or whatever.
So Brandon Cooks for 3 years and a third. I honestly,
and if he is 27, he's an old 27 because he's had a good amount of injuries. Yeah. So this is not like a young 27.
I'm teetering on that. I'm not going to say definitely no, but I would rather have Kyle Pitts. I'd rather have a late first. So just absurd, man. I guess.
By the way, we talked about Joe Douglas being so good with trades and stuff. If this is not a situation that can be mended, we're going to see how good Joe Douglas is with trade negotiations, because I bet there's a ton of teams that would want Elijah Moore. Granted, every single team basically passed on him in the draft. I think he's shown enough with college tape and in year one that skill set, even in the preseason and stuff, this kid could be good. Are there any offensive linemen? Because we're talking about having a good offensive line. That's another way to help Zach out. If the team can keep pounding it on the ground, and we've been so banged up at tackle and stuff, and I know they've signed guys, and I know that moving AVT there's been nice, but we want to move AVT back to guard. Are there any offensive linemen that might be disgruntled that we could maybe get in a trade? I'm again just thinking out loud here, guys. I didn't expect this news to come about while on the stream, nonetheless.
Yeah, what are we thinking about? Like a tackle? Because the thing is with Dwayne Brown's going to be here this year, next year. Obviously, Laken Thomas.
We don't know what we have backed in for the future.
AVT.
And listen, everybody's talking about Max Mitchell as the guy for the future. Listen, I like what Max Mitchell did. I think he did an admirable job. He played hard and stuff. Max Mitchell, he looked pretty bad in at least 2 of those games, right? He looked pretty okay. And you even said relative to expectations. Okay, you could live with his Baltimore performance relative to expectations, but he did not have a good game against Baltimore, and he looked bad against the Steelers.
No, he looked good for expectations, but our expectations are a 4th-round rookie, really, really
exactly. So to say that he's the guy for the future, I mean, we're talking about okay, a lot. Max Mitchell is a backup, sure, sign me up any day, but Ike Ekwonu was drafted 6th overall. They're not trading him for Elijah Moore.
So if they don't trade him by Sunday, does he play? Do you play him?
Yes.
I bench his ass. I'm done with him. Get rid of him. I'm done.
You're going to put Denzel Mims out there? He's another guy who requested a trade.
Get rid of both of them. Package them for dude. That's all it takes is so it takes Denzel Mims, Elijah Moore, and a third for Kyle.
So who are we putting in instead? Who are we putting in at receiver instead? We're going to give Jeff Smith more snaps?
It's going to be Braxton. It's going to be Braxton Berrios taking a full-time role. But I'm trading him. I don't want this shit on my team for the Jets for another 11 weeks.
Thing is Belichick would not put up with shit like this. There is something to a winning culture in sports. The thing is Belichick has so much clout built up over the years that players are less likely to pull this shit with him. Number one, and number two, oh man, well, forget number 2 for a moment because I even forgot what I was going to say. I totally understand why you want to trade him. I just like you can't. If it absolutely must come to a trade, you've talked to the kid and he's just so distraught and he wants out. Like I don't understand how he can be in that headspace though, where he would like what led you? You're 6 games into the season, you have a 4-2 record. I don't know. And it's
He's
not like they weren't
really
targeting
weak mentally.
He was targeted so many times against Cincinnati, bro. Like you had your Chidobe Awuzie, he locked your ass down. I'm sorry, he did.
Yeah.
Granted, the Jets ran you on a lot of vertical routes, which is not your strongest suit. But I'm sorry, even still, Chidobe Awuzie, he was a 2nd-round corner, right? Who, was an unrestricted free agent. The Cowboys let him walk in free agency. He locked your ass down. Plain and simple.
Now, I'm gonna go through the chats really quickly, and then we're gonna talk about the game. I'm sure we'll talk about Elijah Moore a little bit too, obviously. Somebody brought up the Ravens. The Ravens need receivers pretty badly. Is there anybody from the Ravens we can think of that the Ravens would package a guy?
I mean, listen, why would they want to trade Bateman? They drafted him as a 1st-round guy. They drafted him ahead of Elijah Moore, so why would they want him? There's no way I want Devin Duvernay. I mean, like if we're talking just receivers, in terms of the Ravens secondary,
offensive lineman or defense.
I mean, like Ronnie Stanley's a stud tackle, but he's been injured so much lately.
Yeah.
So like, he missed like the first 4 or 5 games of the season. And I heard that he got banged up again recently.
Sign Odell Beckham.
People have been saying that, but I mean, like, you want to talk about one guy who's like, like if we're questioning Elijah Moore's character, I don't think Odell Beckham's a bad guy that some make him out to be, but he's a little bit of a diva. Do you want divas on your team? I don't think Joe Douglas wants divas, and I don't think Robert Saleh wants divas either.
Tyrone's in here. I'm just going to address this really quickly so I see it. Trade Moore in a second for Jesse Bates. That would be a very dumb trade from the Bengals because then you have T. Higgins, you have Boyd, you have Jamar Chase. They don't need another receiver in Cincy unless you're going to package like unless some way you're getting rid of it's a package of Taj Boyd and Jesse Bates for Moore, a 2nd and a 4th. Okay, so but they can't have 4 receivers deep.
Tyler Boyd. Taj Boyd was that scrub quarterback that we had.
Did I say Taj Boyd? I meant Tyler. Yeah, Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's run through the chat really, really quickly because I know it's a lot of it's going to be about Elijah Moore. So there had to be 1,000 chats since that happened, Kyle. So I'm just going to see if anything really sticks out. Is Elijah actually full of salt right now while the team is winning? Solzy, now not only is just salty, he's also requested a trade. But crazy. Dad Duty kicks in. What's up, Blake? Pipe, what's up? Joe, hey guys, nice smiles. You guys appreciate that. Said Kyle from Hype. Joey to fire Nash. Yeah, the fucking Nets too, dude. The Nets, the Mets, the Jets are great, but of course now this shit happens. Blewett, let's go 4-2. Okay. Joe, were you the guy there for the Lambeau leap? No, but I was like 40 rows up from that. I was right in that corner of the end zone. Lambeau's beautiful. It's it's right in the middle of like just a neighborhood. Like it just pops up. Oh shit, there's Lambeau. The stadium's beautiful. It's old as hell and it's still much better than MetLife. There's not a bad seat in the house. It's loud on 1st and 2nd down. It's wild. People don't bitch at you for standing up. I was standing on the bleacher and I wasn't getting bitched at. Like it was so awesome. The hospitality there was great. Awesome stadium. We went over this one. I had to run through it as quick as I can. I'll ask this question really quickly while I just scroll through some chats. Because now it's gonna be a little bit funny, Kyle, because we saw some of the stuff early in the chat. Justin said, seriously, the Elijah Moore stuff is way overblown. I don't know, Justin. I have a feeling this might end bad.
Hey, did you see AJ Brown tweeted out #free Elijah?
Dude, what a bunch of soft little bitches. Trade him the Eagles. We'll take I don't know who do we want from the Eagles, Kyle? They have a safety. That we want? Do they have a?
I'd love Devontae Smith, but I ain't get rid of him.
Eagles safety. Elijah Moore and a 3rd for Devontae Smith, so you could have 2 divas together. Do it. I can't. I still can't believe it. But let's see. There are so many freaking chats. I stand by Kyle. Kyle is always here for us. Joe, you're in Italy stuffing your face with focaccia. Not a lot of bread. The pasta's great. Italian food does get old after 18 days, though. I can tell you that. Like 3-4 days.
Not enough sauce for you.
Not enough sauce. I'm a sauce guy. But I was searching for some Indian food and for some like burritos after like 3 or 4 days. The food is good. It's just how often can you eat the same of anything? Kyle's right about the super chat. Get him, Kyle. All right, I'm gonna try to do my best that I can. Still going to be in Minnesota. I don't think I'm gonna go to Minnesota. I'm gonna go to all the rest of the home games. J1. See us there. By the way, Kyle, are you going to the Pats game? Are you gonna find your way to the Pats game?
I'm not sure about that one, but you will definitely see me there at some point this year again.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be honest. I was also thinking especially after last week's win, that I'm starting to think, playoffs possibility, and depending on where the game is, I might really want to go to that game, even if it's, which would almost assuredly be on the road, because I can't see the Jets winning the division over the Bills. But I've never been to a Jets playoff game, so and
we were talking about that on the trip. Actually, we're talking about Jets playoffs just because had quite a few flights of beer in us, and we were talking about like our situations if the Jets were in the playoffs. Now, whether it be home, away, like at what point is the cutoff? Because for me, I think I can go to like all the way up to the conference championship game. I don't think I can go to the Super Bowl. I think I have to watch that in my house alone because I could not deal with other Jets fans saying stupid shit, other fans rubbing it in our face if we lose. So I think I can go all the way up to the conference championship, Super Bowl. I would stay home. And obviously, we can't handle winning very well. We're talking about the Super Bowl, but I'm saying like I can go.
How would that be different than going to a conference championship game though? Like you'd be heartbroken if they lost the conference championship game.
Yeah, but the Super Bowl is just different. I don't know, and I don't like the production it is and all that stuff. So I don't know.
But what if they win though? If they win, you'd still regret not going if you had the money to go.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
What if you can go to Italy, you can afford a new camera? Well, listen, a lot of expenses.
I'm being honest. The only thing that's hanging me up with the Super Bowl is, dude, look at the difference in the tickets for a conference championship game versus a Super Bowl. Like you're talking Super Bowl tickets are probably at least like 10 times the price or something like that. For me, that would be the only hang up for me going to a Super Bowl. Like obviously it would suck to see your team lose, but
this is fucking Giuseppe's fault. Go back to Italy. And it's funny too, like being back in the States, I was like, dude, am I going to go to this Packers game? I'm going to get blown out and it's all my fault. Like people are saying it, but obviously I wasn't necessarily the bad luck charm. Now, maybe when I'm in New Jersey, it's the bad luck charm, but I agree with Jack Mehoff, who was saying, cut the cancer out. I completely agree with that. Get rid of him. He can't be on this team anymore. Are you still kind of teetering on keep him, Kyle? Because I at this point, I think you just gotta get rid of him.
If he was a defensive player, and albeit a good defensive player with a ton of potential, and he has even shown that he's been good with us, I'd be much more willing to part ways with him during the season. My problem is I don't see, unless you're getting another receiver in return who's actually legit, I don't see how this can't stunt Zach Wilson's development. Now, at the same time, if he's so cancerous and he's going to complain and bitch like T.O., but not have the production that T.O. had, like give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, and
one of the best receivers of all time.
And Zach's looking his way and throwing him the ball when he's not really open, that can stunt Zach's development as well. There were a ton of people that said that, and granted, I didn't watch the all 22 Lions game, so I can't really say if this is true or whatever, but some people say that Stafford actually became a better quarterback after Calvin Johnson retired, because he would always just look Calvin's way. And even when, sometimes, he's getting bracketed and things like that. So sometimes like getting the cancerous receiver off your team can also be good for a quarterback's development. I'm just thinking like, man, like somebody said recently, like the Jets have some PFF guy or whatever, so take that with a grain of salt. But somebody was saying like, you want to talk about one of the,
a little bit.
Yeah, one of the teams that has so much young talent and is fun. Like they were talking about the Jets, and Elijah Moore is one of those reasons, even though his stat line has not looked that way this year. So if you get rid of him and you get nothing in return for this season, your offense has to take some kind of dive. It just does. Jeff Smith and Braxton Berrios are not going to be a seamless replacement unless, and I'm sorry, we've had Braxton Berrios on this team for at least 3 years now. I have not seen the strides as a receiver, dude. With the guy with the ball in his hands, man, he's pretty damn good. Like, think about he always looks so good on returns. That end around that they ran to him this past week, he was so patient, waiting for the blocks to develop, lowers his head right before he gets in the end zone. The touchdown that he had against the Dolphins, right? Like diving for the pylon. Like the dude, he's good with the ball in his hands, but I don't see any separation from him when he runs as a receiver. So, unless he took like an astronomical leap and became like a good receiver, then if you were just to get a pick for more, you could almost live with that. But Braxton would have to take an enormous leap as a receiver for our offense not to take a dive.
Jets Hub, I don't know if you're a YouTube channel, but catch up, bro. Just catch up. What are we doing? What are you doing? Just refresh your news, buddy. But nonetheless, I don't know who that is, to be honest. But nonetheless, Kyle, it's not like I feel better about this, but it makes me feel better about the offense not necessarily taking a hit because we've been killing on the ground. And it's not like Elijah Moore has been some focal point for defenses where, he's taking on double teams and brackets and cones, opening up other guys. He hasn't been producing. Obviously, that's part of Michael LaFleur's fault, maybe part of Zach Wilson's fault. But it's not like the offense, you remove him from these last couple of games. Does the offense take a hit? Now I get what you're saying that, like, okay, and in general, I agree with it. Like, yeah, he's a talent. He's going to break. He would break out eventually, if he's maybe used a little bit differently. So I think he would kind of bust at a certain point, but they've been playing pretty damn well. And he hasn't contributed much of anything. And then you're going to put that on top of the fact that he's being a little bitch about it. You just can't have it. So for me, you got to get rid of him this week. You're benching him. With how strong and how tight of a team this is, I don't think you could put the message out there that this guy deserves to play at this point. So bench him, find a trade partner. And if other guys are going to,
I think most players, the majority of that locker room would say, you know what, our coaching staff did the right decision to bench him or trade him. Like, who are you, man, to request a trade when we're winning?
I think 99% of this team would be against him. Like, I don't think any of the offensive players have a problem with how this offense is taking part, and obviously the defense is lighting it up. So I don't think there's going to be many other Jets, maybe other than Michael Carter, who's a little like turned off from this, at least enough to say anything or act differently. The only guy I'm worried about is Michael Carter because you're looking at a guy whose role is being reduced and who's best friends with Elijah Moore. So is he going to cause a stir? Which that would be super surprising to me because Michael Carter seems like a different dude. Like he seems like he loves being a Jet. But at the same time, when you're seeing Breece Hall get Rookie of the Weeks and rushing for almost 200 all-purpose yards wherever he's getting, and you're getting 6-7 carries, is it going to start to trickle into him?
Michael Carter's a good player, and we love him for the reasons that you just outlined. Running backs are much more replaceable. So if Michael Carter wants to cry and bitch, we wouldn't be talking about it as much as we are with Moore. I mean, literally, I had Moore as my number one ranked Jet, and when we did our top 25 a month and a half ago,
yikes.
And you had him number 2.
Less of a yikes, but yikes. Yeah. No, he was really good. Some people are saying release him or get rid of him for a fourth. He's not that good. Dude, he's a much better than a 4th round pick receiver. Like he was very good last year.
That would be high.
Crazy.
Any team that played him more in the slot or whatever, and used him in a maybe gave more end arounds and things like that, became much more creative with the way that they were using him. They got him for a 4th. That'd be highway robbery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, AJ Brown tweeting free Elijah just makes me hate him more now too. Like it's just I'm just so done with like the me era. I can't believe the Jets are on a 3-game winning streak, looking like they're going to be legitimate playoff contenders. And after 3 weeks of Zach Wilson, you want to trade after going to meet with the team and saying, yeah,
when's the last time the Jets had a 3-game win streak? 2015?
17.
They did have one in 2017? I know they won 5 games that year, but did they have a 3-game win streak?
I could be misquoting. I know at least a winning record this late into the season was 2017. Maybe it wasn't a 3-game win streak. Maybe it was 2015. But it's been a while, and like they're legitimately young, legitimately exciting. They're not beating scrub teams. Like say what you will about the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. I think that's his name, right? But you're beating him. You're beating the Steelers in a 10-point comeback in. Yeah. It's not in Heinz Field anymore, but whatever field it is. And you're beating the Packers in Lambeau, who have not lost a game in Lambeau in 15 games, have not lost back-to-back games in, I think, the last 12 games. They always, after a loss, they win. So you're beating regardless of their problems this year, a very good team who people thought would be a legitimate playoff contender. And because you're not getting targeted, and listen, it's not like Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis lit up this game. They both got targeted like 2 or 3 times. It's not like he's getting out targeted. Just the running game is working.
And here's the thing too, like if they ran same play design, same area of the field, if they ran that play, the out and up, instead of Corey Davis, you had Elijah Moore there. I'm pretty sure Elijah Moore would have caught that ball too. Right. Like, and the whole 0 targets thing too. Like, this is where like Samini, like, do a better job, Samini too. Like, you're almost kind of like starting shit a little bit. And even Elijah Moore, be a little bit more honest. He was targeted. It just didn't count because of the stupid penalty on Dwayne Brown, which was not a penalty really.
It was on a chop block. Yeah,
it was not a chop block.
Yeah.
Credit to Breece Hall getting that nice chip in there.
Of course, I have a nice Twitter header picture. It's me and the fellas, Soldier Field with the soldier behind us, an American flag. Guess what jersey?
You're wearing Elijah Moore jersey.
I'm wearing a fucking Elijah Moore jersey. So that's getting replaced.
And I got an Elijah Moore jersey too, man.
Well, guess what? Whoever's coming to J1 next week, I'm lighting him on fire. I want to say, I'm going to donate to charity, but that one's getting.
Are you really going to light it on fire?
I'm lighting on
Joe,
fire.
But Joe, what if they keep him and just like Debo Samuel? Listen, Zazzy Jets, who's he also he contributed to Jets X Factor. He said like hey, listen, Debo Samuel requested a trade. Where's he at? So like, is it not possible that this situation gets mended and Elijah Moore?
I think it's a lot different when Debo has proven himself and Debo is an absolute stud and Debo wasn't getting the contract he thought he deserved from the team versus a guy who
I agree with
second round pick in year 2.
I agree.
Like it's
I do agree.
It's different when you've proved as much as he does. What about Christian Watson has done what in the NFL?
Oh, no way. No
absolutely not. Why?
I think drafting Christian Watson in the second round is a mistake, honestly.
You said you watched him more than I did.
I probably watched like 3 of his games. I probably watched 3 of his games. I'm telling you, those 3 games, he must have played like 33% of the snaps. And like, and I'm saying like they ran a lot of heavy packages. They're talking like a lot of like 13 personnel and stuff like that, not uncommon. So sometimes there was only one like receiver on the field, but a lot of times he wasn't that one receiver. Now, could it be that he was nicked up those games and I just didn't know? I think it's because he's really raw and has a very limited route tree and stuff. And listen, he's a freak of nature and can jump out of the gym and stuff, but he's not a good receiver at this point. So there's no way I'm taking him. No way.
Yeah. Franco, this trade isn't happening. Makes no sense to get rid of a guy who has so much talent after 2 years. It also makes no sense with a guy with this much talent on a 3-game winning streak request a trade. It's unprecedented territory. So you're going to trade if the Jets are all about the camaraderie in the locker room. If a guy is going to be a little bitch in the locker room and request a trade, I'm sure they don't want him. Like you're talking about what Corey Davis had 3 targets last week. Garrett Wilson had 3 targets, and Garrett Wilson did his best game. But those guys are blocking their asses off. They're running their routes hard. And Elijah Moore, Pittsburgh game up on his routes, doesn't try to block. So it's a little bit unprecedented. People are talking about trading him for Calvin Ridley. You're not going to get rid of a guy like Elijah Moore for Calvin Ridley, who is a better player. But he got suspended the entire year for gambling on his team. I don't think they want to do that. So, and I'm not going to blame Rich Cimini for starting this. Clearly, he was having. I don't think Calvin Ridley's a bad guy for doing that. Like you could probably overlook that and say, okay, this was a one-time mistake. Like you did something really stupid. You should have known better. Don't do it again. And like, is he a gambling addict? I would assume no. So you'd figure that'd be a mistake that he would never make again. But the thing is you're not going to get Calvin Ridley this year. And there's the age factor too, and the contract factor. So there'd be a variety of reasons you wouldn't want to make that. But if it was just like, is Calvin Ridley a bad dude just because, he did that? I don't know. I would say no. So Kyle, I'm getting through the rest of the chats here. Good thing I made it. I gave us some time to do a 3-hour show, right? So let's get into the Packers game. 27-10, and people are probably already don't even care about it because I know the Elijah Moore thing's taking over. But nonetheless, I guess we could start with. You want to start with defense or offense? We usually start with offense. Want to keep it rolling with offense?
Yeah. Let's keep it rolling with offense because Elijah Moore. We don't have to talk about him. While we talk about the offense.
And I guess we could start with receivers. We'll just start with receivers. Elijah Moore, again, he did run too many vertical routes. We don't really give a shit about him anymore. He's not a Jet anymore, hopefully. The one play that we talked about before we even knew he was getting traded was the vertical route he was targeted on. And we said that, or I said at least, he did not have the best release. He typically takes like a split release and then bows his routes out. And he's not a good vertical receiver because he needs to hold his line a little bit better and get vertical quicker. He bows his routes out too much and lets the corner stack him. So not a good game from him. Corey Davis had the out and up was beautiful that he ran. Very, very good route from Corey Davis there.
Because he
And then
actually
Garrett Wilson,
sold the out.
very, very much so. And then even after he sold the out, he did a good job of bowing it out a little bit to the sideline just to avoid the corner's pursuit if he was to be a little bit closer. Good job attacking the ball. For the most part, he body caught it, but still. And then past that, we have Berrios, who ran the end around for rushing touchdown. He followed his blocks, but it was pretty open. And Garrett Wilson struggled this game. Let's be frank. He had a drop pass. He had the route on, was it like 3rd and 3, which he's done a few times already, where he's running it short of the sticks and then drifting in front of the first down marker. And then he also had the route on the sideline where Zach Wilson targeted him. It was an out route. He's facing Jari Alexander, which, based on the coverage, I'm okay with the decision. But part of the problem was on that route, both Zach Wilson threw the ball behind Garrett Wilson, and Garrett Wilson ran it wasn't a good route. If you watch that route again, I forget if it was like a foot fire or another like split release, but he bows his route out from like 5 yards above the numbers to like 5 yards below the numbers. So he bowed that route out like 10 yards, and then he breaks out, and there's no room on the sideline for Zach Wilson to throw that ball. So it was also a poorly run route from Garrett Wilson. So I would say Elijah Moore, bad, terrible, fucking asshole. Corey Davis, good, and Garrett Wilson struggled with both the route running and drops in this game.
Yeah. No, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you're saying and stuff. So, but thankfully it was a game where the Jets didn't need to throw the ball that much. And I think that that's going to mostly be the recipe for the remainder of the season, but it will be interesting when they're in closer games and they have to throw it more and who's going to step up and stuff. Garrett Wilson, let's talk about the drops, because this is something we've seen all offseason. We saw it in this college tape, and we've seen it through the first 6 games of this year. What do you attribute it to? You attribute it to, like, is it mostly just concentration? He's worried about yak, or do you think he just kind of has like stone hands? Like Brandon Marshall, I think, had like good hands, but a lot of concentration drops, versus like Braylon Edwards just kind of had like stone hands, banana hands. It was something he always had, even going back to his Michigan days. What do you think?
Can you repeat that?
I'm sorry. So I'm asking, like, what do you attribute?
I was reading one of the dumbest things we've gotten on here.
Okay. G-dubs drops. What do you attribute them to mostly? Do you think it's like more of a concentration thing, or is it just like poor hand placement?
Usually when I was watching, at least at Ohio State, and he hasn't had as much here, but I think he tries to run with the ball before he completely looks it in. At least in my opinion.
That was definitely the case with his drop against the Browns, the big 3rd down drop late in the game, which forced him into a punt. Yeah, it is annoying. And even that one, the one that he had in this game, if he extends, now I don't know that Elijah would have created the level of separation that Garrett created on that route. And I'm talking about, this is like I want to say it was like a slant. The Jets are on, they're in their own territory, so they're not in Packers territory. And, he comes over the middle and he tries to catch it with his body. Now, see, Elijah Moore, he goes and grabs a ball like that with his hands. Now, again, I'm saying, I don't know if Elijah creates the level of separation that Garrett did, but I do believe that in that situation, Elijah's, making a good extended arm hands catch, whereas Garrett Wilson's trying to corral it with his body. And dude, it's hard enough to catch with your body to begin with, but when the ball is up, like above your midsection, and you got to kind of go like this, that's a hard catch to make over the middle.
Yeah. But in that situation, does Moore get off of Jari Alexander?
Well, that's what I was saying. I don't know if he.
I don't think so. But I would like, Kyle, can you explain to me how Elijah Moore not getting targeted and then requesting a trade is him not being a diva nor a disruption? It's not a disruption. Requesting a trade.
Please don't start the slander. Don't switch on the kid that quick now. I mean, listen. I think
this kid, he has to be 14 years old. It has to be 14 years old. I don't understand this comment at all. 10,
maybe. Okay.
8, 7, 6.
I feel like we've already gotten into this so much, but we definitely can, and that's what the people want. So I guess we should give them what they want. I guess that's part of the reason for a live stream. But here's the deal. Like, it's the biggest diva move you could potentially make. And here's the thing. Like, we're so supportive of this kid. We both bought his jersey before he played a single snap. Now, you definitely buy a lot of jerseys. That's kind of your MO. You're a huge fan like that. Me, I kind of like, for the pet, like, I didn't buy no Le'Veon Bell jersey. I didn't buy no Sam Darnold jersey. I wanted some of these guys to kind of prove it to me. But when I was hearing all these things about Elijah Moore's character and stuff, and I was so impressed with his college film, I was like, you know what? I'm excited. I think we got the future franchise quarterback in Wilson. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna buy a jersey when I haven't bought a jersey in years. So we both ranked him super high. You know, CD, who's a consistent guy who interacts with us on Twitter, and he's always in the chats. He was always, you know, getting on us. You guys are way too high on Moore. You guys are way too high on Moore, repeatedly, and we would constantly defend Moore. Now, obviously, we drafted a kid. We have a bias to stick to him, but I think that when you're being honest about football analysis or any analysis that for that reason, you're willing to change your perspective on things when facts on the ground change. And the fact of the matter is that facts with Elijah Moore have changed. Like we've known him to supposedly be this high quality guy for the reasons you said, like he helped AJ Brown through his depression and suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. But this is the softest move that you can possibly think of. And I think it was Daniel Murphy, right, who said something like, I could see if Elijah Moore had put up stats and he was in a contract year negotiating. Bro, this dude is 2 years away from even thinking about contract negotiations. Like, you're not even 1 year away from the contract negotiations. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, your team's won 3 games. Like, Robert Saleh is talking about stacking wins. You did stack wins. It's talking change the culture, right? Scott Meeson keeps talking about change the timeline and stuff, right? The Jets are doing that, man. Look at the latest power rankings and stuff, right? Like, whether it's, you know, PFF or ESPN or NBC, like pretty much all these different outlets are saying the Jets are like a top 10 team in the league now, right? And you have young talent, and this guy goes and requests a trade. Why? Because he's not getting the ball, right? And listen, you can say, well,
cancerous though, Kyle. The next team he goes to, if he's not targeted for 3 games, he requests a trade from there. And then the next team he's not getting targeted, he requests a trade from there. Unless he's getting targeted 10 times a game and getting 7 catches, he's just going to request a trade. To say that's not cancerous or he's not being a diva has to be the dumbest thing I've ever seen typed in here, minus maybe don't trade Sam Darnold, that I've ever seen. So that is the most brutal thing I've ever seen in my life, to say he's not a diva. Let's not turn on him. He requested a fucking trade after going 4-2 and beating some good teams because he's not getting targeted. Like, all these other players are happy and they couldn't give 2 shits less about the target. I'm sure they do it slightly, but I'm going to go on Twitter and not say anything while also saying something. Like, you don't realize how dumb that makes you look. Like how do you not say something while saying something? Like, what an idiot, dude. So get rid of him. Goodbye. Bench him. Trade him.
Look at this tweet. I'm about to tweet something. You should look at it in a moment. But keep talking and pull up the next chat and stuff. Well, we were continuing with the offensive discussion.
Yeah, let's go. By the way, we can also say that Denzel Mims is not now the answer to the Jets. Can you imagine if Denzel Mims just steps up and he's the new guy and he just balls out? Like, can you imagine?
that would be so sweet, man. It would almost be like what a slap in the face it would be to Moore, man. Like he would like so regret it, kind of like, you know, Le'Veon, like not taking that contract from the Steelers or whatever. Like, oh man, I kind of fucked up there. Anyway, continue with what you were saying.
And the thing I didn't mention before, because obviously this hit us like a brick, but like you listen, if you're gonna request a trade like publicly like this stuff and like go on Twitter, like it just hurts your trade value. Like, it doesn't help you. So you're being a selfish little baby about it. Like, go to Joe Douglas or go to meet with LaFleur. If you don't like what LaFleur has to say, you request a trade, but you do it privately. So you're not looking like a little bitch on social media, because all it's doing is hurting your trade value. So if you actually want to get out of here, you just hurt yourself trying to get out of here. So like, it's just a dumb move all around. I guess from, you know, again, I'm not gonna try to like get stupid with what I'm saying here, but like, just what a jackass, dude. I want him gone like right now. Like, just, I don't know. Like I said, Kyle Pitts straight up, I'll take it. You know, it is what it is.
So I quote tweeted him where he said, "Love my teammates," a couple hours ago, 6 hours ago, whatever. "Love all my teammates!" Exclamation marks. And I said, not sure that they would say the same about you after this.
I love AJ Brown and Michael Carter II. Like, what a joke, dude. Just get rid of him. No, it doesn't. Plenty of teams would love to have him and use him properly. Okay, blah 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 blah. You got the people who are.
Listen, I have no doubt that some other teams wouldn't use him in a situation like so. You know, take PFF for whatever it is. And I know he said, like, listen, their grades, and Nanny was totally shitting on their grading system, but he was still saying that some of their raw data might be useful.
Yeah.
And yeah, they do have people who like track the stats and stuff, or track, you know, alignments and stuff. But I mean, you especially when they like label coverages and stuff, I think that, you know, they have a lot of problems with that. Like, they were saying something was cover 6 when it clearly was like a 3. But anyway, so they said, Mike Brenner recently said that Elijah Moore was used about 75% of the time in the slot in college. 75% of the time. I didn't know the number was that high, but that's a pretty damn high number. Whereas I would say probably maybe 75% on the outside. Now, he would be more effective there for sure. But the problem is and Joe, you went and said this when you were evaluating Garrett Wilson's tape. You're like, I see him more of a slot guy, especially early on in his career. You said that your very first Garrett Wilson film review. I remember it. And Garrett Wilson's been good in there. So it's like, and could you alternate them more? Put G-Dub on the outside more and Elijah in the slot more, and just constantly keep switching it and keep the defense guessing. You could, but to act like Elijah Moore should be strictly a slot guy. I mean, that you have to think like part of the reason the Jets drafted you is they think that you can do more on the outside. Granted, and I even said this a couple of streams ago, like stop sending on go routes so much, more so on over routes, on dig routes and things like that. A little too much with the go balls, but he should be able to win on the outside more. And if he wants a big contract and stuff, if you're exclusively a slot guy, you can forget getting top receiver dollar money. So
we have like 2 or 3 people defending Elijah Moore in the chat, and it must be Elijah Moore, AJ Brown, and his agent. Like I don't get how anybody could be defending Elijah Moore right now, minus maybe fans from other teams who want him. But like if you were a fan of another team and he gets traded to you after all this shit, I would be like, oh, I hope he gets targeted. Like what a diva, dude. Now imagine this guy. Let's say he does ball out. Let's say he goes to the Chiefs and balls out for 2-3 years. He gets $25 million a year. Is this a guy who's going to be running routes for you hard? $25 million a year? I don't know. If God told him that they'd have to run routes, he's not going to run routes for you. So you better hope God tells him the right thing. And his archangels, wherever he sent him down to talk to Elijah Moore all the time. Fucking child. Sean Coots, CA20. I don't know what that.
Is that Canada?
Is that
Canadian money?
Is it? I've never seen it before. But thank you for. I think it's Canadian. You correct me if I'm wrong. I'm bummed about Elijah, but let's talk about Zach. How Zach can improve under pressure, in particular, this elite Denver D.
By the way, thank you so much. Very generous super chat. Very generous.
Yeah, for sure.
Sean.
And I haven't seen you much in here, Sean, unless you change your username. So to not be in here a ton and then just throw a super chat, big balled it, love it. Talk about Zach in general this game, and I guess we could talk about him a little bit in prior games just really quickly, Kyle, because we haven't really talked about him. Steelers game, I thought he, a few bad decisions, few inaccurate plays. The fourth quarter comeback was great. Put the team on his back. The Dolphins game, regardless of numbers, he was pretty damn good in my opinion. This game, he struggled. It wasn't one of his worst games. Definitely not one of his best. It was definitely below average. And to me, a lot of it was, some of it was accuracy. And I think he struggled early with general accuracy, but now it's becoming like the pinpoint accuracy he needs to have that he's struggling with. So he's still putting on guys, but he needs to lead guys. Garrett Wilson to the sideline. Even Garrett Wilson, when Jari Alexander, will put him a little bit more in front of him. The play, Garrett Wilson on the over route on that 3rd and 1 where he rolls out to the left. He waits. There's like a I don't know if it's a curl the flag guy just dropping in general, but Garrett Wilson's open to the sideline. If he leads him to the sideline, puts it behind him. So he's still having problems with his accuracy, and past his accuracy, this game, this is what's going to come against man coverage against teams who are going to be blitzing you. There was at least 3 or 4 times, maybe 2 or 3, 2 to 4 times. Let's just say 3 times where I wanted him to take I think the first was on a spin concept. I forget exactly when it was. A spin concept, Garrett Wilson. I think it's Elijah Moore running the dig over the top. The linebacker drifts back to take the dig, and Garrett Wilson sits it down like a yard behind or in front of the line or the yard to gain on 3rd down. And if he delivered it to him, he could have turned around and picked up the first down. Didn't throw that ball. There's another time. I don't know if it was man coverage, but just in general, it's about quicker decision making with man and blitzing. It was the same. It was nearly identical. I'm not sure about the tower concept, but the Steelers game when they got that touchdown to Corey Davis, where it was like a Conklin clear out vertical, and Corey Davis slipped underneath of it. Same thing. It was like 3rd and 5.
This is the play. This is the play where he threw the
rolls out.
hero. Yeah.
Yes. That play, if he's quicker decision making and is based on leverage and how high guys were, if he were to release that ball earlier to Corey Davis in stride, he turns forward for a first down there. He pulls the ball down, rolls out, and he throws obviously a bad ball to Corey Davis. He forced that. Now if he could have like squared up and really threw that ball, then I would get the decision more. But throwing across your body while fading out of bounds, obviously not ideal. So the accuracy needs to improve a little bit. Part of that is his footwork. And we saw that that was the out route to Elijah or to Garrett Wilson on the left sideline that I was talking about, where he overstrides a little bit, and he's still having problems with his front foot not being completely turned to where it needs to be turned, and he's not allowing his hips to fully rotate through. and that combines with his back foot, which you want to step up. He rotates it inwards, and on that play, you see it, and I show it on the all 22 angle. His front leg locks out, and when your front leg locks out, you're stopping your trade, like your momentum with your hips. You need that front leg to be bent a little bit so you can come over the top of it. If you lock out, you're pretty much stopping yourself. So you're stopping yourself with both your hips because of a locked out front leg, and with that front leg being locked out, now also it's turned. So it's a multi-pronged problem that I think he could fix. So we need to see that, even though he's been improving a little bit. Like, it's now coming more from technique than I think it's coming from like the yips, where I was compared it to like he can hit that Steph Curry fadeaway 3-point shot, but then he'll miss the layup because like he's supposed to make it type deal. He's hitting more of the layups, but I still think he could be a little more precise. And like I said, the against man defense and just pressure in general, he needs to be more decisive with his reads and trust his eyes a little bit more. I don't want to add anything there, but
yeah, I agree that he needs to be more decisive. It's a mixed bag. It's like a double-edged sword, because we're seeing, I mean, there are still turnover worthy throws that we're seeing on a weekly basis. Like, for example, like hanging that ball inside, you're giving Jair Alexander a chance to pick it off. Although the decision is not like the worst decision in the world, but I think like, he is a little slow getting through some of his reads in the pocket. But I think part of that is him being cautious and stuff and not trusting his eyes, which again, it's hard to be a really good team and go far in the playoffs when you have a quarterback who's not seeing things that quickly. So he's going to need to get better week in, week out. And he is in his second year. So you do expect him to get better, but, at least like he is like, he's having less turnovers for that reason, because he's being a little bit more cautious. But he needs to start speeding up that process. I mean, like Baker Mayfield, like a terrible interception like a couple weeks ago where he like double clutched the ball. You just can't do that in the NFL. Now, when you're talking about a lot of the mechanical issues and like the overstriding and like kind of locking out that front leg, I think it's probably because he's just thinking too much. And sometimes when you think too much, your mechanics go to shit. Would you agree with that?
I saw it sometimes
because we didn't really see,
okay. I saw some of it. And the funny thing was too,
you're remembering more of it than me then. I'm not saying it didn't. I just feel like we see it more. I feel like we see it more in the pros though than we did at BYU. I'm not saying it wasn't there. I'm just saying we're seeing a lot more of it.
I think the yips hit him more than they ever did in the pros than we did at BYU. But I remember seeing at least the issues I'm talking about now, maybe not as frequently. Maybe he is overthinking a little bit, but I did see it enough. And like somebody sent me a Kurt Warner breakdown of Zach Wilson, and like I'm not trying to necessarily call him out exactly, but it's just like it's kind of frustrating to watch these guys who show what they're talking about, and he's talking about his inaccuracies, and he mentions zero about his footwork. It's like you're doing breakdowns and you're a former quarterback, and you're not talking about his footwork. That's clearly off. Like what is going on here? So just watch who you're watching. And some people are great, but when they're lazy, they're lazy. So it is what it is, but. Barney Miller, $5 super chat. We appreciate it. Were the Jets sending more on go routes because his speed took DBs out of the middle, open up for tight end and haul runs? It's a part of it. But at the same time, I would have liked to see him over the middle a little bit more as a primary target, not as a secondary target and a vertical threat, because that's where he thrived at Ole Miss. Like I'm not disagreeing with Elijah Moore that he wasn't necessarily being used correctly. Now, are you going to have to bite the bullet sometimes and maybe instead of 33% of vertical routes, you run 20%, and then you're a primary focus on other plays more than he was, some of these end arounds and jet sweeps and all that stuff? Yeah, I think he should have been used more like that, but worked it out with Mike LaFleur. 3 weeks into Zach Wilson and you're requesting a trade, it's an all-time bad look. I can't remember a second-year player pretty much ever requesting a trade. Even Denzel Mims waited till year 3. So it's crazy. So maybe it's a part of the speed, but I don't know, Kyle. You have a better answer than that for him?
I don't know that I have a better answer, but here's my thought on it. And thank you, Barney, for the $5 super chat. I mean, a lot of go routes are actually just clear outs. Like they're usually not the primary read. Mm-hmm. The thing is, if you keep running it and defenses actually aren't scared that your receiver can actually win on a deep ball, that why would they shade a safety to your side, right? So like part of the reason you run those clear out routes is to get the corner and the safeties kind of shaded to that side, and then it opens up stuff on the other side of the concept. But if teams aren't respecting it because Moore's not winning that way, then it's kind of not really serving its purpose.
He's not good. He's not a good vertical route runner. He's not good at stacking guys, and that's part of problems.
I saw him win a good amount of times on deep like go routes in college, but it seemed like every time he did win, it was like on double moves, like slant and goes. He was really good at running that because, like, listen, Elijah Moore on like slant routes, man. Like he's a guy who can catch that slant route and then kind of like Odell Beckham at 60 yards to the end zone, right? Like he has that type of potential. So like he sells that slant really well, and then like cuts really up nice for the go part of the route. Like that was how he won. But him running a straight go route, I don't really see any examples of it, and I certainly didn't see any examples of him in college where he can go up and jump like out of the gym and catch a football, or high point of football. Like that's just not his game. So like I see some people are now saying, okay, well maybe we pivot to Mims now. I mean, listen, if we're talking a straight go route, a lot of go routes are oftentimes like, hey, listen, go up and get the ball. Like T. Higgins had like a couple, or he at least had one big one against us when we played them week 3. Like T. Higgins is a big dude, like tall, and he can go up and get the ball and high point the ball. Elijah doesn't have that ability. Mims does have that ability, although we really didn't see it at all last year. So,
on a straight go, I might take Mims over him though, just for his, even if he's not getting separation, just that size. But some people are blaming LaFleur. Dude, listen, they're winning. Their offenses now. Do I want their offense to produce earlier in the games than they are, not necessarily stall out like it has been? Yes, but the offense has been solid, and Zach Wilson's only going to continue to improve. The offensive line is going to continue to improve. Breece is going to continue to improve. So I'm not gonna kill LaFleur for this. But Kyle, I'm gonna get to this chat. We have a super chat still a hit. Again, like we're winning.
So
now,
want me to answer this question from Swolesy?
Okay. I know what your answer is, but go ahead.
Kyle says, Swolesy says, Kyle, would you trade more for Derek Brown or Brian Burns? Honestly, I can't really say too much with Brown because I didn't really scout him at all. But from what I heard, he's like a great, really, really, really good run stuffer, but doesn't give you a tremendous amount in the pass rush department. And to me, that just kind of reminds me of so many other guys that we've had throughout the years. Like one of the reasons I was so bullish on drafting Quinnen Williams is I thought he could be like a real legit pass rusher from like a 3-tech, or even if you kick him inside 2-1, something like that. I don't see that with Brown. So like, I don't want a guy who's not a disruptor in this type of defense. So Derek Brown, I mean, like, even if he's a good run stuffer, and the Jets certainly do need that, Rankin still gets moved a good, like we've seen him kind of have like a little bit of a resurgence. I still see him getting moved a decent amount, but I'm not trading like a premium player for Derek Brown. Brian Burns, on the other hand, I really do like him, but the thing with him is I don't think he gives you a lot in the run game either, although he gives you a lot as a pass rusher. So it's like, I mean, like the Jets are getting home with pass rush and stuff. I like Burns, but you're gonna have to give him a contract soon too. So it's like, I would say no to both of those.
And listen, to me, Burns isn't a great fit. And how much are you investing in the defensive line at this point? Like at a certain point, it's enough. Like we have enough on the D line. What appreciate this, the $2 super chat from Jonathan Francois something. I would say at the minimum an early second is what I'm expecting. I could see a first from the Packers with maybe like a conditional fourth or something like that from the Jets, because they'll be a little bit lower. I could see it from the Chiefs, one of those teams, but I'm expecting a late first or early second for Elijah Moore. We already talked about that a little bit. We also had a question, Barney Miller, do we think this is going to derail our season? I think our locker room is stronger than this. Like, I don't see how you could have problems with the coaching staff when they're coaching us, obviously with the players as well, but we're winning. Like, winning cures all. Just keep winning.
I think guys like Tomlinson and Uzama and a bunch of other like veteran guys who've been on winning teams and stuff, if the Jets ended up trading Moore because he didn't want to be here, they would say, hey, listen, man, we're rolling with the guys who want to be here. We're winning football games. We're a good team, right? And I think a lot of these young, hungry guys, man, like Eccles, some of these guys, like, Philly Will Parks, some of these guys are just so happy to be on the field. Michael Clemens, like these guys are playing hard week in, week out. And just because one person doesn't want to be here because, we won 3 games and 2 of them were blowouts and 2 of them were on the road, right? And one guy doesn't want to be here because he's not getting targeted enough and he's not getting enough catches, even though, he could be doing more himself. I think that a lot of these guys would just rally around and say, hey, listen, we're going to roll with the guys who want to be here. and I don't think it would derail the locker room per se. But you're definitely losing a big talent on offense, and I'm sorry, your young quarterback needs that. We're talking about a guy who's like, struggling to see what's open. Well, it's easier for a quarterback to click through his reads when guys are getting open easily.
Again, I think right now, if the Jets are 1-5, it causes a stir. The Jets at 4-2, winning on the road in Lambeau. Again, the Steelers, all this stuff. It's not going to cause a ripple. The only person I'm worried about is maybe Michael Carter, because they're so close and his roles are getting reduced. But past that,
dude, if Michael Carter wants to start bitching, man, dude, I'm sorry, Michael Carter, Breece Hall he's him. I'm sorry, I've never said that before. I've never said it before, but Breece Hall is him, man.
Calm down. You're too excited. You're too excited, Kyle. Tom, you got to change your profile picture, my guy. I don't know what that is, but you're on a Jets YouTube thing, and you got to. That's Tom. I don't know what that is.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but nonetheless. Okay, so Zach Wilson again. We went through some of the bad. I thought there was some good, some decisiveness. Again, he wasn't brutal. He wasn't missing balls badly, and even when he's not like producing, he's not putting the ball necessarily in like harm's way. Now maybe the one throw, it's the ball to Davis, the throw to the ball that was behind Garrett Wilson on the sideline. Yeah, kind of. But it's not like it was last year, and he hasn't thrown a pick since when? I don't know.
So Zach?
Yeah. Like when's
Steelers game.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. He did throw a pick in the Steelers game.
He threw two.
But nonetheless, he did. He has been keeping or even though he's not necessarily been like I'm trying to think of the proper terminology for it. Like I guess he's been a game manager for the most part last couple of weeks, and with how the run game has been working out, I'm fine with it. Like he'll let him break out against some of the lesser teams. But listen, when you're facing the Packers, teams are
going to start respecting the run more. I mean, like think about they need to run more of these RPOs too, because like these linebackers are flying up, and it's creating so much open space over the middle. And just and when he hits a couple of those throws, it's going to give him some confidence and stuff too. And the young kid needs more confidence. I think he's like a swaggy type player, but I think last year when he had that rough start to the season, he lost a little bit of his swag. But just hitting a couple easy throws like that, getting the stat lines, the chains moving, run more of that. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. And again, like I was really impressed in the fourth quarter of the Steelers game. How could you not be? I was impressed in the end of last year for many parts of it. So this is the first game in quite a bit that I'm like, but it's going to happen. I think this is his 16th, 17th game in the NFL. Barney Miller says, read my comment on the Steelers interception. QB school guy put out. Yeah, Barney, we talked about this. Ago.
Yeah, we did. He might not have been here though, in his defense.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But nonetheless, moving on from Zach, and like listen, this week he's playing like one of the best defenses in the NFL. Last week he's playing one of the top passing defenses in the NFL. The Steelers, he's playing in Heinz Field in a ruckus crowd in a ruckus situation. He played well. Like let's chill out a little bit. When he's not producing against teams like the Jags and the Lions and some of these more mid to bad teams, then we could be more concerned. But when you're not necessarily not even not struggling, but you're not like excelling versus one of the best pass defenses in the NFL, let's not go crazy. Like if and they only put the ball in his hands 18 times. Well, I guess he got sacked though once or twice though, so maybe like 20. But nonetheless, they're not asking him to do more than he's doing. So right at the run game, it's okay. But we're gonna move on. Quarterback, receiver, tight end. I think it's pretty quick, Kyle. They were both. Uzama had two huge blocks in that game. One block on a sift where he cut a linebacker who tried to scrape over the top, cut him out. Yeah, and then Breece gained a big game.
Took a nice angle because if he went more flat, he would have missed him.
Which a lot of tight ends do. And then past that, the rollout that Zach had where he hit Corey Davis deep. Really, really nice cut on that block as well. And Conklin, I thought overall was pretty solid with his blocking. He had a catch over the middle. Uzama had a relatively good gain on the screen. But overall, look, two guys who didn't really produce much, who blocked, who didn't get the ball, were perfectly happy with Jets wins. Holy shit, novel concept.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like I said, like the Uzama comp versus Elijah's a little bit different, but I do not understand the level of bitching that he is. Listen, this is not a good look for him. the fact that he thinks he's going to get his way and that this is going to make him look good. I mean, like maybe if you're traded to an all-star team or something like that with a superstar quarterback, maybe it works out well for you. But the chances of that happening, not that good. I think he would have been just much better suited to listen. Hey, that's what I did in college. Can you guys start using me more this way? I know I'll prosper, but
with that soothing low voice, Kyle, like that too, because you kind of just I don't know what you just broke out there.
Well, Elijah Moore's a soft-spoken guy. He's
like
not
a jazz
loud.
guy. Listen,
he's not loud.
You just please just use me like this, like pretty much a little bit more in college. Like
he's a soft-spoken man. Man, a few words.
That was a really good impression. I legitimately just thought I was talking to Elijah Moore there. So past that, offensive line, Dwayne Brown obviously has been pretty solid since obviously he's been starting. Had a relatively good game. The one play, the chop block, was pretty bad by him. It was a bad play though in terms of oversetting there. It was a bullshit penalty though, but overall, listen, you had one bad play in that game that I can remember off the top of my head. It's a good game. Laken Tomlinson has been much better these last 2 weeks. I can't really think of any bad plays off the top of my head from this game.
And Dwayne Brown in space, man, like like we. Maybe we're not underrating it, but like when they get him out in space on screens and stuff, he moves well. Yeah.
No, he's good in a straight vertical line. You ask him to change direction in a phone booth, he's not as good. But I was impressed by the left side. McGovern did I think a really good job in this game. No bad plays off the top of my head. And even Herbig, like just their passing off of like in zone and getting good angles on guys, which is obviously something that people don't really look into. Is like the running game with all this motion and stuff. Michael Fuller's doing a really good job setting these guys up with like getting positional leverage and making linebackers hesitate, and that helps offensive linemen getting to the second level. I'm about to say something, but McGovern solid. Herbig has been okay, but he does get the pocket pushed a lot because he gives up his chest while he's strong. He lets up his chest a lot, so he got a couple bull rush a couple times in this game. We're trying to get into a kind of a secondary piece of that, but he was all right. And then ABT was solid this game, but he did pretty bad on two plays. One was in the run game.
You're talking about that one play where Zach almost had the intentional grounding safety.
Well, that play, listen, that was on him. Like just based on where that handoff is, Breece Hall is going to block inside to out on that play. It would make absolutely no sense for it to be a tight handoff like that and him get outside. So ABT went through outside, or no, he went inside then outside, or inside or outside inside outside. So he basically blocked nobody out of two guys. So that was a bad play. And then there was one play in the running game. It was pretty poor as well. But again, this is like his first time ever playing right tackle, and it's his second game at right tackle. So I'm expecting some struggles. But with that being said, impressed overall by the offensive line. But I would say a couple of dud plays from ABT, a couple of dud plays from Herbig, but overall impressed by the unit. They opened up some damn big holes for Breece as well.
Yeah, and listen, those of us so AVT has given us some stability at the right tackle position. I mean, him at right tackle versus McDermott. I mean, night and day. By the way, just a quick word on McDermott. I was kind of kicking myself when you brought up last week how you were listening to the stream, and like Nanny was like he showed us that picture of McDermott's horrible stance, and you were saying like how he needed to be put some weight on his front leg, otherwise you're not going to be able to load off and explode off of it and actually get out into his set. I was kicking myself like, man, why didn't I say something like that? But anyway, yeah, I think AVT is overall pretty solid. Brandon Thorne actually put out like 2 good reps of AVT, where Kenny Clark was like a 3 technique, and AVT basically got some vertical displacement on him, and it's hard to like get in front of a guy from when you're tackled to get in front of a 3 technique and then get vertical displacement on him. Those are a couple pretty good reps from him. Yeah. So like he's solid there, but he's much better as a guard, and especially like when we're talking about pass protection. So but yeah, the offensive line looks like they're finally starting to gel a little bit more. Tomlinson, man, those first couple of games he was god awful.
Oh my god!
But we've seen improvements from him and stuff. They've been pulling him with a lot of kick out blocks recently. He's doing just enough to kind of like keep the guy stable and not let him bounce off of him. But he's probably, I mean, like I guess you could say he's better than Herbig at this point, but not much better. He hasn't been absolutely atrocious. So hopefully he keeps getting a little bit better and actually starts to live up to that contract. But man, I'm so glad they signed Dwayne Brown, man, because where would we be if we didn't? I know it was kind of out of desperation, and would the Jets have signed him if? But Anyway, we can move on. Talk about something else. I don't think I have anything else to
Yeah.
say off the top of my head.
Somebody's opening doors and stuff in your house, distracting you. I don't know what's going on there, Kyle. But nonetheless,
Was that bad speaking right now? Oh man.
No, I'm kidding.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. So no, they did really well though. In the run game, like Breece Hall did plenty well himself, but the offensive line had a very big part in that game as well, as did Mike LaFleur. Now the secondary question with this is, and the first argument is continuity. Second argument is, okay, is this group of players better? Fant comes back, let's say, I don't know, 2 weeks. It's hard to predict. 2 weeks, he comes back. He can play right tackle. I personally think that the combination of Fant right tackle, AVT right guard is better than Herbig right guard, AVT right tackle. So do you do that, or because they're gelling,
I agree
now,
with you.
because they're playing well?
I agree with you.
Do you keep the group now?
But here's the deal, and I've said this so many times, so if I sound like a broken record, so be it. AVT has like all pro guard potential. He doesn't have that as a tackle. So even though you like him, at right tackle because, maybe he's at least serviceable out there. He can maybe be an above average tackle, but I don't think he's going to be much better than above average tackle. And Fant has showed you enough in his career that, even though he hasn't been great at right tackle, he's still pretty good. So, listen, I'm not playing Fant until he's close to like 100%. I'll say that. But because I do think that a good amount of his struggles early in the season was because his knee was not right. So how long is it going to take until he gets that way? But once he's healthy, just factoring in contract, what he's already done with the team, the fact that Herbig is a guy who was undrafted and he was cut by the Eagles. I don't think there's no way you can justify playing Herbig over Fant, and then keeping AVT out of his natural position. So you'd have to go with what you said.
Yeah, and the part of that too is like, and yeah, they might be, the continuities could be the argument, but then also part of that is now you're keeping AVT at right tackle for the rest of the year because of continuity, and then next year he has to go back to right guard. Like, no, get him back to guard, get Fant in at right tackle. I get the continuity piece, but I just want to throw that out there. So when Fant comes back, he moves in the right tackle, and AVT moves back. Well, you said, I think AVT could be not even above that. I think he could be a good right tackle, but I think he could be a great guard, and that's a big difference to me. And I think people overvalue, or not, maybe not, they don't overvalue tackle, but they devalue guard and center like a lot. And any position on the offensive line matters a lot to me, So it's almost just as important. So with that being said, moving on from the offensive line, I guess we can, let's see, just a couple of chats before we get to the defense. Broncos fan in the house, I expect you to win Sunday. We're not getting to that prediction yet or anything like that. The only X factor is a Super Bowl. Listen, at the end of the day, trust me, the Jets have had plenty of reunions and guys getting inducted into this. They could still get their shit blown out. It does not matter. I think the Bengals game, did somebody get introduced and they got beat pretty bad?
I think it was Mangold and maybe Revis, but definitely Mangold for sure.
Revis is like later, like
okay. It was Mangold, and Mangold was like shotgunning a beer or something, or chugging a beer during.
I've never shotgunned it. I wanted to try. I always wanted to try shotgunning a beer.
8 a.m. at the tailgate.
8 a.m. J1 be there. You'll see it. So the X factor. I'm more worried about the secondary than I am the pass rush. Like and bring up some interesting numbers that Nani put up later, or I'll bring up numbers that are interesting that Nani put up today about the Broncos later. I'm not going to hit it now though. Jaleel Crawford, damn, Elijah Moore requesting a trade on my birthday. Well, one, happy birthday. Curious how old you are. Got to be the worst present ever until you get Kyle Pitts. And then we're all going to be happy. So dude, that's what I'm going to stick to. Kyle Pitts. Elijah Moore for Kyle Pitts.
You said second.
No, I know. But now I'm trying to speak it into existence that we're going to get Kyle Pitts. I obviously severely doubt it, but fucking around a little bit. Thanks for positive. Okay, so moving on, I didn't really see anything else that stuck out. I'm reading it really quickly.
Thing is, though, like, would we even want Kyle Pitts if he was one of these guys who wanted out too? Like, his team's not bad right now. They just stomped the Niners, right? And it's kind of like a similar situation. Like, let's say if Pitts wanted out, it's because you're not using me properly, right? Like, you should be throwing me the ball more. Would we want him? Like, you as soon as you saw this, you did a 180 on Elijah Moore as soon as you saw this.
Dude, you want out of a team who's winning for the first time in my lifetime.
I'm like with you, but I'm just saying.
Are
like,
you Elijah Moore's agent? What's your real name? What is his name? No,
Don't know.
no, it's dude. Listen, I liked Elijah Moore. I'm not gonna say like I liked his personality, but I could feel it was maybe a little bit fake too. You know, like he's like too reserved and like too.
When I
I don't
saw
know.
the
He's a
thing,
little odd.
listen, it's a great gesture, but you pay your mom's debt off. Like, okay, apparently his mom had a lot of debt, and I understand. Like, listen, I think I assume she was a single mother raising a child, not an easy thing to do. All the respect in the world for that. So he does this thing where like, he gets his contract. He's a rookie. Mom, I'm going to pay all your debt. But why'd you have to film it and put it out to the world? Like,
Mhm.
all right. So if he's a religious person, which he claims to be, I could just tell you like, and this is coming more from like a Muslim perspective, studying that religion a lot. Like when you do good deeds, like it's actually better to like do them on the DL so people don't know about it. That way it's like more sincere. So like when I saw that,
Yeah.
the immediate question that came into my mind is like, okay, Elijah, I get it. You're paying your mom's debt. You love your mom. Great thing to do. All respect in the world for you. But it's a part of you doing this because you want people to think you're a good person. Like, oh, I'm paying my mom's debt and let me film it and let me put it out to hundreds of thousands of people, millions
I
of
think
people
that's
on
just like a
social media.
new like kid like young. I'm only 29 saying this, I guess. But, like it's like not a newer generation. Even kids my age are do a lot of stuff for social media. Like, and I see it all the time in Italy. Like people walk around. Dude, it was crazy how many like we'd be in like Rome or like these really nice cities. People would be walking around with the most miserable fucking faces I've ever seen in my life. And then they'd turn a camera on and be like smiling and walking down, flipping their hair, and then they would look at the camera, be miserable again, yelling at each other. Oh, take another picture. Oh, ha, 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 ha. Like it's so like fucking just live your life. Enough with the bullshit, stupid picture stuff. Like, dude, I'm not about social media at all, minus the jet stuff. Like, I got married, bought a house, went to Italy, went to all this stuff. I didn't post one picture on Instagram, maybe a little bit on Twitter, but like I'm not about that shit, so I'll never get it. But yeah, I could see the fakeness with like, oh, look what I did for my mom. But at the same time, maybe he's just proud of it. Like I'm not gonna, I can't.
Yeah, and there
necessarily
is
do
some
that,
of it
but
too. Like, okay, like if you do a good deed or a good deed, or they're sounding religious now, which I have no problem with, or a good gesture, whatever you want to call it, whatever floats your boat. Sometimes that does encourage other people to do good stuff too. So I'm not trying to say like he is fake or whatever, but I don't know. I mean, like, but when I see news like this, it does make me question some of the things he does. Like, is he really the high character guy that some people put it out to be, or was just some of this like, fake sincerity or whatever? Who the hell knows? But
yeah.
I don't know.
I get that because I trust me, there are a lot of people who are fake in the world, and there's a lot of people who lie in the world. There are a lot of people in the world who seem to be one thing, and off camera, off social media, they are the exact opposite. I see that a lot with my job and stuff, but nonetheless, Donald, Roquan, and a draft pick for Elijah Moore. Some people have been bringing that up. I'm kind of with Kyle. I prefer something that's going to help out Zach Wilson, whether that be stability on the offensive line for a true legit starter at tackle. And then you trade a guy like Fant for a late round pick or something like that for the rest of the year, or a receiver. But at the end of the day, if you can't pull that and you want to pull a Roquan, again, I want to go and watch a lot more of his film. The guy is 26, 27 years old. Which actually funny thing on the video board, there was like a thing where it was like between plays. It was like Roquan was getting it was like, how many things can Roquan name that you'd bring on a camping trip? And he named like two things. He was like, he's like a fire starter and a pillow, and he's like for like 20 seconds, like fucking pillow, a tent. It's like, what are you doing, dude?
Wow.
So it was kind of funny. We're all yelling at him. We were all drunk though.
That's
but
funny.
nonetheless, I would be interested in it. But the thing is, like Quincy and Quan are playing well enough where they're not struggling big time at linebacker right now.
The linebackers, I mean, when you look at the jump that Quincy made this year, and he has made some kind of a jump, and I feel like Quan has been such a steal of a signing.
And he's a big locker room guy too. So
yeah, the linebackers are playing. The linebacking situation looks a lot better this year than it did. And before we signed Quan, man, like this is something we were harping on a lot. But with the growth of Quincy, now part of you wonders, okay, well, Quincy's definitely a player that has improved under Saleh for sure. And Saleh, he coached linebackers and stuff too. So like that's kind of and same thing with Ulbrich, and being a former linebacker. Part of you wonders like, okay, well, Roquan hasn't even hit his potential yet. I mean, we're talking this is a top 10 draft pick. And while he's grown as a player, he struggled a little bit as a rookie. I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet in terms of his talent potential. So you're almost kind of wondering, like, could this guy make like a Demario Davis type leap? If he gets in the right system with the right coaching and stuff too. So there is something that, there is something in me that is kind of giddy about thinking about that potential. Yeah, it's so hard for me to part with a big piece of our offense when we have rookie quarterback who, you know, we've been talking ad nauseum about just, you know, we got to do what we can to help this kid out. And then if you trade one of his premium players and you don't get anything this year that can help you out, it's like, ugh.
And again, you're stacking up a position group that's been like Quan. Everybody talks about the juice he brings to them. Like maybe he's a guy they look to resign for a couple of years. He's been good. And Kyle, like when I did that film review, I was shocked they got him for $1 million. Like, listen, he's not like an all-pro, but $1.2 million or whatever it was for Quan is a steal. And Quincy is, you know, improving before our eyes. And I think he's a big, like you saw the play that he stuffed Aaron Jones, like Sauce sees it's Quincy and then he goes and does a celebration. And obviously Q loves him and stuff. Like he's a big, like at what point do you, and we talk about this a lot, but like, do you measure, it's really hard to quantify, but like actual performance on the field and like what they mean to the locker room? Like would Quan being not here next year affect the locker room anyway? Like how much the guys love him and the fact that he's producing? Like, do you want to get rid of that to bring in a Roquan? Like, you know, it's not my preferred option. I wouldn't be mad at it, but we'll see. Some people
it almost seems like DJ Moore might be the best and most realistic. You like DJ Moore a lot. You know more about him than I do. Right.
Yeah, they just signed to a big contract though, right? So they
have
to eat a lot of money.
He's a little bit old. Yeah. So now the Jets could make it work. I mean, you still got Zach on a rookie contract, but it's like, I almost feel like if we were to get DJ Moore, when you factor in age, but granted, the Panthers, if we ever got into negotiations with them, they would say, well, he's produced more in the NFL than Elijah Moore. So, you know, you're not going to get anything else from us.
Yeah. So,
but then you factor in contract and okay. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I don't, because Twisted's a big support. I don't know if he's talking about us necessarily, but I don't think that Jets fans are waiting to smell blood. But I could tell you after winning 3 games, I'm sitting at the airport and Elijah Moore says, "Hey, I'm not going to tweet this, but at the same time, let me tweet this." After a 3-game winning streak, I was automatically like, dude, why are you being an asshole?
Like you think wait, all right. So hold on. Let me dunk on Twisted. I'm sorry, man.
And we love you, Twisted, because I know you're a big supporter, but
I don't mean this to disrespect. I'm just saying like he's wrong about this. Do you honestly think that Samini has that much power over Elijah Moore, that Samini implanted these ideas into Elijah Moore? I could tell you Elijah Moore was frustrated way before Samini started tweeting about this shit. Come on.
Now, maybe the responses to Samini's tweet and people tagging Elijah Moore put him over the edge. Maybe, but then he's also a very soft human being at that point. But like, we can't say that New York fan base is our Sharks. We were all fucking thrilled on Sunday, but I was pissed off when I saw that. I'm like, dude, what a bitch. Like I thought that at the airport, regardless of him still being on the team, but it's very soft of Elijah Moore to do that. So I think New York fans deserve to go at him for what he said on social media. So I'll back up the fan base with that one. And at the end of the day, it's Elijah Moore's fault. And Samini, listen, was he baiting fans a little bit there? 100% he was.
He's good at his job. He's not
the one who put Elijah Moore over the edge. Like I don't think he's the one who supplanted this into Elijah Moore's mind.
And like, listen, I quibbled with him a little bit earlier. Samini, that is, saying like, listen, he was targeted. Don't say he was targeted 0 times, because he was targeted. But regardless, he wasn't targeted enough. And there is serious questions with how often they're using him on the outside and what types of routes they're making him run. It's perfectly legitimate to question that. Just like Joe, you question, you're like, hey, listen, I'm being nitpicky with Sauce right here. The coverage is still good, but like, listen, when he goes against Stephon Diggs, this shit ain't going to work. Right? Like you were saying that.
You watched the review. Nice.
I did. Yes.
Nice.
Anyway, but like, so like Samini, he's got a job to do. He's going to also like question, listen, the Jets won, but is this really the best way to be using Elijah Moore all year? It's why he has a job. It's perfectly legitimate for him to ask that question. And yeah, it's going to rub some fans the wrong way, because Elijah Moore also knows, you could see it in his body language. You could see it in him giving up on routes and things like that. It's been building for weeks now. We're a month and a half into the season, right? So like when he sees Samini, 100,000 followers, Jets beat reporter for 30 plus years, tweeting this out, it's kind of giving him like, okay, well, if this guy's talking about it, that means other fans are seeing it. Maybe it's okay that I kind of go public with this as well. It's not like Samini implanted this in Elijah Moore's head, right? Or he's talking to Elijah Moore on the DL and say, hey, Elijah Moore, I think you should maybe tweet this out publicly. This is going to be good for my ratings, and you might get what you want. No, come on.
So
like, he was already frustrated, and anyway, go ahead.
In 4 weeks, we will be praising him if he breaks out. Tell me I'm wrong. Sure, but I already know he's a good player, so I already praised his play. But you get on my shit list pretty quickly. Am I ever going to like him again? Am I ever going to don his jersey again? Probably not. Like Becton lost his standing with me very, very quickly. With all of his big bust shit on fucking social media, where he's being a big bust, big bitch. I'm sorry, on the social media stuff, he is. It's like I want to root for him. I want to be the most dominant tackle in the world. But when you're baiting like that and you're tweeting out, oh well, look who got me injured and look at this and look at that, and he's soft on social media. I'm sorry, it just is what it is. Elijah Moore, if he's on the Jets in 4 weeks and he's dominating, great. I want the Jets to win. Am I ever going to throw on Elijah Moore jersey again and praise him unless he comes out and apologizes for this and legitimately means it and I actually feel that he's sorry about it? Then no, I'm not going to be praising him and like, for lack of a better term, all over all on his dick and shit. Like I'm not a fan of Elijah Moore anymore. That's for sure. Like he lost me. So
and
no,
you have that right. You pay a lot of money. You spend a lot of time rooting for this team. And you don't have to, dude. This is the dude. Literally 3-game win streak, 2 blowouts, road wins. And this is how you're acting. It's tough. And if we can talk a little bit about Becton, dude, that could have happened to anybody. Like to call GV out publicly like that, GVR publicly like that. Yeah. Like listen, I understand like he was not a good player or whatever, but let's say someone who was going against a really good interior defensive lineman, like even the best guard, Zach Martin, could have gotten beat that bad if he was going against Aaron Donald or whatever, and you could have gotten hurt like that. It was a freak fucking accident, man.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah. So to call your own player out like that publicly, like shit like that happens in the NFL. Linemen get rolled up on all the time.
Well, that and like the fact that, listen, and like his, and I don't want to get into Becton right now, but it's just like kind of rolling into it. It's like you tweet something out and you have 100 positive responses, or you have 99 positive responses. The one negative guy is the guy you're quote tweeting and going at. Like, just grow up a little bit. Like, I have negative people tweet at me. I have like 8,000 followers, whatever, 7,000 followers. Like, dude, why go at those people? Like, it's just childish. But nonetheless, actually, since we're talking about trades and whatever else, we're going to get to the defense in a minute. Bryce Hall was a guy who might be rumored to be traded for the Jets.
I saw that.
Would you be interested in trading him? Maybe we package him and Elijah Moore for.
I mean, he's not suiting up on game day. Now, granted, if one of our corners goes down, Bryce Hall, it's a nice backup to have step in there. But like, if it's a guy who's not even suiting up on game day, like they view Brandon Echols as a superior player, as a more versatile, superior player. So yeah, I mean, if I could trade Bryce Hall, I mean, what am I going to get from a 5th round pick? Maybe. But you're not going to get a 4th for him, I don't think. What do you think? What do you think you could get from him?
I would say like a late 4th, just because of Joe Augusta's trade history. Which I think I would take that.
Maybe. I mean, when you look at when we look
at the end of the day,
what we got for, sorry.
Do you want him on your team just in case there's injuries? Yes, but at the same point, if he's going to be inactive every week, and you could turn that 4th round pick into a player who can contribute, then you'd rather have the player contribute. Anything less than a 4th, I think I'd rather just keep him for the next 2 years, to be completely honest. So Becton 100% called out GVR. It's there somewhere, unless he deleted it, which he did he just tweets up, delete it. Nonetheless, by
the way, I think Elijah Moore deleted a lot of his tweets from a couple days ago, because I was looking through his Twitter earlier today and I didn't see a lot of those tweets, but I did see some tweets from like today though.
Yeah. Okay. So defensive line, Kyle. I'm trying to think if there's anything on the offense. Defensive line. Quinnen Williams dominated. Obviously, yes. 3 quarterback hits, 2 sacks, 5 tackles. Plays where he was holding up two offensive linemen, letting linebackers make plays.
And can we credit how good he is at tackling a guy in the open field?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, yes.
Like I don't know if we're giving him enough credit with that. But sometimes guys will get someone in the open field and they'll miss them. But Quinnen, he's bringing dudes down, man. Mm-hmm. And this is the most dominant I've ever seen him. And you highlighted several good things. You also credit in the film breakdown. Shout out. Let me give a plug right here. JetsXFactor.com. You can see Joe Blewett's latest film review on the Packers game and the big Quincy Williams stuff on Aaron Jones, which is like, I think Nanny had tweeted out like, this is the best hit I've ever seen. And it's being a little fanish and hyperbole. It was a great hit, man. Yeah. The way he drives him into the ground, but you credited Quinnen Williams because he's taking on that combo block and he holds the guard ever just so slightly, holds him up so that Quincy can get through the gap and make the stuff. I don't know if that happens without Quinnen Williams. So just those little things like that, man. This is the most dominant I've ever seen him. And I know that he had a pretty good second year, but I got to be honest, this is in my personal opinion, because I even had some questions with that. This is by far the best I've seen. And I actually tweeted out during the game, I take back everything bad I ever said about him.
And it's
Sometimes
funny,
it's good. It's good to be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong here.
A lot of the people who in the last couple of weeks, months, years who were talking about getting Brian Burns over him are quickly backtracking on not wanting Quinn Williams in the draft now, which is
Brian
funny.
Burns. You mean Josh Allen from the Jags?
Josh Allen, you're right. You're correct. And actually, Brian Burns was in that draft as well, wasn't he?
Well, he was, but I remember.
Yeah,
but nobody was arguing that though. They were arguing Josh Allen though.
Yeah, you're right. But with that being said, yeah, this is the Quinn I expected coming out of Bama, where I really, really hyped him up. Now, should we have expected maybe a little bit more of a slow start from him because he was a one-year starter? Maybe that's on us, But his technique was so clean at Bama, I expected it to translate. But nonetheless, he's playing like, if not the best defensive tackle in the league right now, the second best. He is producing all-time numbers, has been absolutely dominant. And part of that is the defensive line he's playing with as well, making guys step up into the pocket. But he is just much more. He's more powerful, more decisive this year. Like this year, he's taking the fight to offensive linemen, getting into their chest, taking advantage of his strength more than he was last year to me. And we hit on this a little bit, I guess we're just dunking on people, whatever. And I still want to talk about some other topics, so we have to run through this a little bit. But Quinnen, initially, Kyle, gets a 64.5% grade from PFF for his game in Green Bay, and credit to Nania, worse than Solomon Thomas, Brandon Eccles, Lamarcus Joyner, which is Quinnen's second worst grade of the year. They then change his grade out of nowhere to a 75, and then they change his grade to an 81. And the two head guys of PFF, they just come out, and it's funny too because they got cocky. And on Tuesday, people were we're talking about in the Slack and stuff oh, they're gonna come out and explain the grade. Let's watch this shit. Clearly Quinnen Williams has to be able to explain the grade on Wednesday. Explain the grade on Wednesday comes out. They say, oh, sorry. Sorry, we fucked up. It's so what is your process that went from a 64 to an 81? So what happened? Explain.
I think it's just a bunch of dorks, honestly, just plugging numbers in spreadsheets and Google Sheets or whatever, and then coming up with a bunch of random stuff. Oh, this is it, and clearly some of these guys don't know what they're watching, man. Because like I said before, I was watching one of Coach Vass's breakdowns, and it was clearly the Falcons were clearly running a cover 3. In this, they were just shaded on one side of the field because that was where the strong side was.
The strength of
the passing. Exactly. And he said PFF labeled this as a cover 6. And I've mentioned this before. I had a student. I'm a high school teacher for those that don't know. I had a high school student who's like, yeah, I got a second interview with PFF. So I don't know. This was his senior year, so I don't know if he actually ended up getting the job or whatever. But I'm telling you, this nice kid, not a dumb kid or anything like that. But I'm telling you, this kid, he was the kind of guy who never watched all 22 in his life. He was a kid who watched highlights all the time, like YouTube highlights. So he didn't know the first thing about anything. If you asked him to explain, basic principles of cover 2, I don't think he could do it. So I think these are the types of people who are crunching these numbers and stuff and putting this stuff into it. And I feel like it's okay, you got all this raw data. Let's throw it all together in this fucking hodgepodge soup and see whatever comes out. And I saw our good buddy, well, I wouldn't say good buddy, but because I haven't really spoken to him in years, but I love him, Eric Turner, cover 1. This was after the Dolphins game, and they gave Sauce a bad grade in that game, where he won Rookie of the Week in that game. Had a pick and a couple other pass defenses. Yeah. And the Tyreek Hill pass interference was a little soft or whatever. I mean, it's a badly thrown ball and Tyreek Hill's got to slow down. He's the one who runs into Sauce, and it's Sauce's fault. Okay. Anyway, so PFF, they went out on their podcast, Sam Monson and PFF Steve, two of the standard bearers. These are guys who've been with PFF since the jump, right? And they go out and say, Sauce Gardner, he really didn't do anything in that game, and blah 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 blah. And they're explaining their grade. And Eric Turner says, after they went out and explained it, I have even more questions about their grading system. And Turner points out every single one of Sauce Gardner's man coverage snaps in there, and it's solid coverage, and he's like, this is a 60-something grade. I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
The same website that comes out and says that the quarterback would have a higher QBR or rating if they just threw the ball into the dirt than when they targeted Elijah Moore in that game, or target Sauce Gardner, also gave Sauce Gardner a bad grade. How does that make sense in any world? And the thing is, they get cocky about explaining their grade. Don't say sorry. I'll hear sorry after you tell me why you fucked up, because I want to know why it went from a 64 to an 81. Explain what happened there.
Well, they don't explain their formula. They come out and say they come out and admit, and they've admitted this since day one, as far as I know. We can't adjust for scheme. We can't adjust for strength of opponent's schedule and things like that. so admit there is like a little bit of a flaw in our system, but they also don't tell you like what their formula is. It's almost kind of like when you buy like a protein shake or whatever, or any kind of supplement, it'll say like proprietary blend. And it's like, if you ever tried to call a company and say, well, what's in the proprietary blend? They won't tell you. So like PFF is not telling you what their formula is. And it's like, okay,
meth like Jack back in the day.
Maybe. But clearly like, some of the people they have working these places aren't that smart. And like, I saw that one of these Jets fans, I don't really know who he is. He was questioning one of these PFF guys and just questioning the grade, and the guy went and blocked him. So like, some of these guys are really soft too. But
can we just all admit that PFF is useless unless it is from numbers that are facts? This guy lines up this place this many times. That's it. But I see hundreds of people reference PFF did this, PFF said this, Stop with the PFF shit. Like JetX, we're gonna just go away from like no more PFF references. Like we're done. They've clearly showed these last couple of weeks that they're complete jokes. We've known that for a while. They rated DeJuan Landry really high that one year. Like they are terrible. They are.
By the way, they had Skylar Thompson.
website.
Skylar Thompson has like 89 PFF grade.
Yeah,
Skylar Thompson.
They're a joke. Let's stop referencing PFF, please. Everybody, we signed this free agent. This guy, PFF numbers. They clearly have no idea. If you saw 64 grade from Quinton Williams or 68 or whatever it was, and then you turn on that Quinton Williams game, you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? And he blocked a field goal. And another thing, it's another stat from 90. The Jets got a team defensive grade of 70, which was worse than their previous 3 games. And that includes the Bengals game, which they let up like 30 points. And their team pass rush grade was a 63.2, which is the second worst of the season. They harassed Aaron Rodgers the entire game, and they're getting a bad pass rush grade. So they clearly, whatever their formula is, it's a combination of their formula sucks ass, and it's a combination of the guys don't know what they're talking about. If you don't know scheme, if you don't know technique, if you don't know how to block a guy, if you don't know the zone system, if you don't know what an inside zone is versus an outside zone and what the responsibilities are, if you don't know what a wideback is, a counter versus a power versus a G lead versus all this stuff, you're useless. You don't know what you're watching. It's so intricate. You say, good play or a bad play. Like it's so stop with the PFF bullshit. Just please. They've proven themselves to be complete jokes this last couple of weeks. NFL teams got to stop using their bullshit. They suck. They just suck. They suck. They suck. Nonetheless, Kyle, past that, Quinn Williams, dominant. Solomon Thomas didn't really do. Actually, he did okay this game. One play. Nathan Shepard actually made some plays.
He's been quite underwhelming, honestly, Solomon Thomas. I expect a little bit more from him.
Move past him relatively quickly. Another guy who I could be, I guess not honest, whatever, transparent. Last year, I expected a lot more from Sheldon Rankins after that film review, and I kind of hyped him up a little bit, and then he came in disappointed, and maybe I should have factored in that he was coming off some injuries and things like that. But Solomon Thomas, not Solomon Thomas, just blank out on his name again. Sheldon Rankins is playing like what I expected him to be when he came to the team last year. Like Sheldon Rankins is playing pretty damn well this year for $5 million. So I'm glad they have him on the team because he's playing pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like especially and sometimes they'll even kick him to like a 2-eye or a 1. He will get moved a little bit in the run game, even though he's had a couple decently nice reps there. But we've seen more from him in the pass rush department, like you said in your last review, like, this is vintage Sheldon Rankins right here, where he splashes the guy's chest. If you leave that open, he's going to attack it. But he's also really good. Like he's smooth at the thing with him is he's a good athlete. So when they loop him on stunts, like if he has to cover a long distance, like let's say he's like a 3 on one side of the formation, and then they have to loop him out around all the way to the to loop past the guard on the opposite side. He can do that pretty easily because he can cover a lot of ground quick. But a lot of it's timing and stuff. It's clicking right now. So like this combination of Quinnen and Rankins is working really good right now.
Mm-hmm.
And even Shepard, like I've shitted on him a lot of times too. But I would say
terrible late hit though. That was a terrible late hit.
Yeah, but he had one of his best games as a pass rusher this past game. Dude, Huffman. And I know Nanny had tweeted this out like probably like the day after the game or whatever. But like really really quick rep where he wins inside. Man, using him in a very limited role, man, we're seeing, I feel really dumb for saying that I really question his lack of athleticism because he has a really good get off, man. And I was talking about juice. I was talking about how like
burst is good, man.
Jacob Martin has like good juice. I've been disappointed with Jacob Martin. I haven't seen that level of juice and stuff, but Whereas I haven't seen it with him. I have seen it with Bryce Huff, where I did question that.
That was one of the things, like we were talking about Bryce Huff. And I was like, I think you are underrating his athleticism a little bit. So I'm glad you're finally seeing the light, Kyle. It's okay.
Well, listen, like, hey, listen, some of these people, they don't want to admit when they're wrong or whatever, or why they're wrong, but I will admit why and when I'm wrong. But going back to PFF admitting they're wrong, imagine if they did one of those explain the grade segments or whatever. How bad would it have been if they went out there with actual video footage? Because I'm really struggling to think of any plays where Quinnen Williams, like, this is a bad play from Quinnen Williams, or this is a really bad play from Quinnen Williams. Because I'm struggling to even think of one from that game. Okay, PFF
no
guy,
bad plays and plenty of.
Tell me why Quinnen Williams got a negative grade on this play, or because like apparently they have like some plays where you can get like a negative. Like you can get like sometimes like you can get like, a negative 0.5 on this play. And sometimes you can get a negative 0.4. Like I heard Seth Galina, he's a PFF guy who actually, somewhat knows what the fuck he's talking about. Like he actually knows a good amount. Like when there was that Jimmy Garoppolo play where he like stepped out of the back of the end zone, he's like, I'm going to tell Chris Collinsworth, this needs to get a negative 4.0 or whatever, which is like apparently like the lowest you can get. Like, how did Quinnen Williams possibly, how many plays could you pick out of that game and say, oh yeah, this was really bad. This was really bad to earn him a 64 grade. Cause like there was so many very high quality plays that his grade should have been through the roof. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. But moving on, defensive line, Carl Lawson, relatively quiet. Huff, couple of good plays.
Bakhtiari locked him up, man. Bakhtiari versus Brandon Shell, who you wanted to sign, Joe. Man, night and day.
Well, you just said Bakhtiari versus Shell. I don't remember when they went up head to head. When did Bakhtiari play Shell?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like back-to-back weeks. Like Carl Lawson,
I know.
He took him to the woodshed versus Bakhtiari. He's solid.
Well, I was saying Shell over McDermott. Let's not say I want him to be a starter or anything like that. But
how bad he looked last week. I mean, thank God we didn't sign him.
Yeah. Left tackle versus right tackle, but I get it regardless. I'm trying to think. Rest of the defensive line. JFM was solid this game. The one sack he did have was a gimme by the right guard. It was one of the worst plays of a right guard I've seen in quite a while, but still solid. Linebackers we hit on quickly. Quincy, 14 tackles. Dude, he played well. Like that one play in coverage was very, very impressive to me that I broke down on the film review.
The one where Doubs catches the ball on the curl flat. And then
we're like he like matched the deeper guy, watched Rodgers' eyes, and then got downhill on like I think it was like third down. So really nice play from him there. Really good job filling, seemingly not missing as many tackles as he was last year. Even though I'm not seeing him in as much of space. And then Mosley too, minus the illegal contact down the field, had a nice PI, or had a nice pass deflection. He filled a couple nice times. So Mosley has been stepping up.
Yeah, where like he roboted and then he slingshotted himself like right before to make the pass deflection.
Yeah, like nice. he knew that they were rolling out to the defense's left, to Rodgers' right, and he found a threat near him, and then matched him with that slingshot, got back, and then got the PD. Even though he didn't really touch the ball, he just kind of held the one arm. But nonetheless, good game from both those guys. They've really been stepping up, and Mosley's he's definitely lost a step. He's been exposed a little bit more in coverage than he was in Baltimore, but Mosley's still been pretty solid this year. And obviously Quincy coming back, and Quan, the linebacking group is much less of a concern than it was week one. Yeah,
and it's interesting like that Mosley lost a step, even though he's lost so much weight. Like he was playing in the 240s at Baltimore, and like now he's like like low 230. So like sometimes you could even lose that weight and still lose a step. I mean, Father Time is undefeated, but where he, loses some of the athleticism, he still has the mind and stuff, which, he was always kind of known to be a heady player, but that's really what's getting him by at this point in his career. But he's still a very solid linebacker. You could do much worse than him. Definitely doesn't live up to that contract, but yeah. And dude, Quan, like just watching him, man, like you want to talk about Quincy's big hits. Quan has had so many this year, especially even dating back to preseason. Yeah. And like he has a little bit of Mosley in him too. Like, I mean, even Quincy has a little bit of this too, but especially Quan, like where, they have this ability to, they're like very opposite of Avery Williamson, where Avery Williamson was just like a freight train and would just blow up pulling guards and stuff, or anybody who tried to get to the second level, he would just take them head on. Yeah. But these guys, like they have Quan has such a good ability to like, kind of take his one arm over and like, do like
lateral stuff.
Yeah. So, and they're sideline to sideline players. So the linebackers right now, it was a huge concern for us all off season, but right now we're sitting pretty decent right now.
I'm waiting for you to read what you're reading right now, I think, on the bottom
Okay.
of the screen.
I actually saw this before you put this up on the screen, and it did make me chuckle on the inside. Flacco top 25. Explain the grade. Do you actually want me to
No,
do that?
no. We got to move on.
Okay.
Yeah, they were good. Safeties. Whitehead he's really good, and I said this on the review. If you go back and watch, he's very good when he's filling in the box because there's not enough room to make him miss, for lack of a better term. Whereas in space, I'm much more concerned about his tackling, but he does a really good job getting downhill and filling. Joyner he's been like absent on the film, which is good for a safety. But I go over in the review a little bit with both these guys. Some of the coverage is definitely being covered up by the defensive line. Like the defensive line is basically covering up for some coverage busts. Like they are there, and we saw it in the Packers game where Rodgers was missing some guys, not as decisive as you usually see him, some drops. And again, the pass rush is getting there so quickly where he can't step into throws. He's not able to get the ball out. The play where, 64 grade Quentin Williams literally spins a full-grown man and pushes him into Aaron Rodgers. There's a busted coverage. There's a guy wide open on the right sideline that probably goes for a solid 30 yards because, in my opinion, it was either Joyner or Michael Carter who didn't pick it up correctly, and I explained that in the film breakdown. So the coverage has been good. It has not been great, in my opinion, based on what I've been watching. It's a lot of the pass rush that's making up for it. But overall, they've still been okay. They're not as bad as they were week one, but don't think they're studs.
Yeah. Yeah, week one, and then weeks 2 and 3, they had simple coverage busts in the curl flat for, easy touchdowns. So it hasn't been that bad, but there are still some holes there. And if we could talk about Whitehead a little bit more, he's definitely a spark plug too. He has some really nice hits. He had a hell of a game against Miami, man. And I think you were tweeting out some of these clips, like where he was just, coming from so high and just laying these hits.
He retweeted one or two of them, I think.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool when a player does that.
And he didn't retweet it like Jamal Adams.
Because you didn't tweet a bad play yet, Joe. You've been more of a hype man this season. That's why he might do that if you go and tweet a bad play of his. That was him who had that Tyler Boyd hit, right? Week 3, when Tyler Boyd went for the long touchdown because he didn't wrap. That was Whitehead, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, you might be right. Like I said to Donnie last week, I shotgunned the shit out of those reviews. I forget some stuff. I watch those so damn quick.
Yeah, go and tweet that play, and he might be unretweeting you.
He had a bad play this game though too. Like I talked about it, like he was way too far inside. The catch on the sideline, I think it was. I don't know if it was Lazard or Dubs, but like where he was way too far to the inside, and then like the receiver pushed vertical, and he had to push vertical with him, and then the receiver on a scramble drill broke back to the sideline, and Rodgers threw it to him, and Whitehead was just completely out of position on that one. So he did give up that big play. But in general, the safeties are being covered up by the corners and some of the really good rush in general. But anything else to add before we get to the corners? And we forgot about another position group actually on offense.
Well, then why don't we do that before we forget?
Well, I was running back. We didn't even hit on Breece Hall, I don't think. Michael Carter had a really nice run. Breece Hall, his vision is improving. But that first play that I put up was not good vision by him at all. I think it's a linebacker.
That could have been a huge run, man.
Easily 10, 12, 15 yards, and he just runs right into a guy. So it's improving, but it's more, to me, just his natural athleticism more than really being able to read a play and have perfect footwork at this point. So he's going to even get better than he is. It was very much part of the offensive line and very much part of him as well, his athleticism. And the thing that he's doing that he did in college, and I'm trying to remember back to his actual review, but his late stiff arms are a big part of him getting extra yardage too. Big part that I brought up in the review. It's
so good, man. Like it's just like, it's not like, and we've said this before, it's not like a Derrick Henry stiff arm where like he's grabbing a guy like what Derrick Henry did to Josh Norman and just like absolutely throwing him to the ground. It's just so good. Like he times it perfectly. And I guess he's got like decently long arm for a running back. It's just mostly like stay the fuck off me, and he can hold the guy off long enough. And the fact that like he's not like one of these guys that will like slow down to give a stiff arm. Like I remember, I'm a University of Texas Longhorns fan. I remember Roy Williams would do that sometimes, where he would like slow down to give a guy a stiff arm. Like Breece doesn't really break stride when he gives someone a stiff arm. Like he can give a stiff arm and keep running like full speed. And it just like,
it's just enough to create some,
and that's why
separation. That's it.
And that's when like Saleh keeps calling him a home run hitter. Like, like that right there. I mean, like, cause so many running backs would have been brought down, like at those times when he's throwing stiff arms, but it just keeps him going. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's a freak. The light stiff arms are big for him because again, if you hold that arm out there, guys defeat it, and then they are able to drag you down. But when it's the last second, you're not able to defeat it, even though you should anticipate it. He's a freak though with his ability to cut, his open field or his ability in the open field to break tackles and make guys miss and undercut guys. But he can improve on his vision still, and he can improve on his footwork a little bit too. Sometimes he takes a little bit too big steps. It's not anything drastic, but I think he could even be a little bit more condensed with his footwork while reading the line of scrimmage to make quicker cuts than he does at times. It's a very small criticism. Past that, the corners, Sauce was money this game. DJ Reed, he got beat a time or two deep, nothing drastic, but he was solid, but not great this game. And like I said with Sauce,
his biggest knock from his Seattle tape was the hopping back, which you highlighted several times.
And he hopped this game and got beat deep because of it. And Sauce is very, very, very good. Sauce, if he cleans up his press technique, could be elite because he is the problems I bring up in the review. People are like, no bad talk about Sauce because he's been top 10. He could be number 1 if he fixes some stuff up, and he'll learn. His stance is way too high at the snap, and he takes that it's not necessarily a false step because he means to do it, but he gets his ass onto his heels way too quick and gives up ground. Where if he were to stay a little bit more squatted, get shuffles in and get hands on guys, he could be even better than he is because you watch that the play that he got the pass deflection on, was it Lazard or Dubs on that slant? That slant would have never even broken to the inside. He would have been in front of him, not even allowing the ball to get targeted that way if he didn't open up the way he opens up. Like he gets the pass deflection, great, because of his explosion, his size, and his ball skills. But he could have played that route even better. And then obviously the play we all saw on Twitter with like people hyping it up. Elite movement skills.
Excuse me, that was play I'm thinking about.
Elite movement skills on the double move, comeback or stop. Elite, but I'm talking about the slant where he opens up really quickly to the outside, and then Dobbs or Lazard cuts across his face, and he slingshots himself back inside, and he gets pass deflection.
I feel like that was Lazard. I feel like,
regardless, like he could even improve still, which I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but he's been elite though. Like for obviously, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just saying he could be even better. But he has to be really excited. He's playing like a top 10 corner right now. He's like the anti Jamal Adams, where like he's fun and all this stuff, where he's not like trying too hard, like putting the cheese head out and all this stuff, like just having fun.
It was just natural. Fan gave it to him, and he's just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and like Lazard knocks it off of his head, but even Lazard after the game, like, no, I'm not mad at Sauce. Like I like Sauce. Like Sauce seems like a genuinely like fun guy who loves football, who's not trying to be something he's not. Where guys like Jamal Adams and maybe guys like Elijah Moore are trying to be something they're not. But I don't get that vibe from Sauce at all until he requests a trade too. So what are your thoughts on the corners? Past that, Michael Carter second, solid. The one play, he almost got beat deep, but he played the ball really well and played the guy's arms. Brandon Eccles, he got beat for a touchdown, which was clearly a push-off, but we'll talk about the refs in a little bit. So thoughts overall on the corners?
Yeah, I think you have to be pretty pleased with it overall. Do you want to just talk about the refs right now? You want to even start with that? You want to even go and talk more about that Lazard touchdown? Green Bay's only touchdown of the game?
Yeah, I guess you don't have much to add to the corners. Again, I'm not picking on Sauce's top 10 right now. Like I legitimately think he's top 10. I'm just saying he could be number 1 if he just gets a little bit more knee bend, plays a little bit more over his toes, and gets some shuffles in. That's what I'm saying. Same thing.
Well, you said so much, and I did comment a little bit with the DJ Reed hopping back. Okay, I mean, like, listen, if you want me to comment more, sure, I'll do it. I remember watching DJ Reed and being very like one of my first thoughts that came to mind when watching him was like, okay, this guy breaks on balls really quick. He's really aggressive. He's got good ball skills. But I didn't really notice the hopping back so much until I watched your film review and I saw, okay, like, and I even said this to you. I was like, I think like, cause you were still pretty high at the end of the review, but you pointed it out so many times. And I think it was a matter of like, you were so high when you first watched it, like his film, you almost kind of like overlooked that a little bit. And then when you did your film review, like, I don't know how many months later or whatever it was, you kind of overlooked it a bit. And I was like, Joe, like there was a lot of examples of him hopping back. Why do you think he does that? It would be my question for you if you want, because I don't really have a good answer for it.
Yeah.
Why do you think he does that?
Maybe just more comfortable, like playing off and letting, like, he doesn't like to dictate, where he likes the other guy to dictate, and he just counts on his natural athleticism to allow him to catch up to that guy, where he doesn't want to lose at the line of scrimmage and get stacked. Like that's the only thing I can think of. But I think like listen, Reed has been probably the best free agent signing, maybe minus Quan or with Quan in conjunction. But the technique in the hopping back is what takes him from being, again, good to great. I think he'd be even better than I'm a stickler for corners. That just is what it is. They're playing very, very well. It's just things I'm noticing. But yeah, I guess that would be the reason. Anything else to add to the corners before we get to I guess the refs and we get to the Broncos a little bit.
It's less like a performance of like what they did in this game, because I think you did a pretty good job of that. But I would like to see I do want to see the Jets like have Sauce in receivers' faces a little bit more, and sometimes like even they do this. I wouldn't say decently often, but I've seen it a decent amount of times where they'll walk Sauce up late, and like he looks like he's playing off, and then like right before the snap, they'll walk him up right in the receiver's face. I want to see them do more of that too, because whether he's playing off or in the face, right in the receiver's grill, he can thrive either way. And it's just kind of like, because a receiver can have a plan, but if he's not expecting that last minute, it's going to throw off his plan. And where Sauce can kind of thrive either way. So I want to see them doing more. It's one of the reasons you draft this guy, is because like he's just got this freakish, talent that you don't, that a lot of people can't replicate. Anyway, so let's talk about the refs.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. And let me know if you guys want to watch the skydiving video. Let me know. I'll put up the skydiving video in a little bit. I don't know if you guys want to watch the full version. Is like 3 minutes. It's like a little bit of the plane ride up and like some of the pump up stuff, and then I have like the actual dive video. So if you want to watch the full version or the dive video, let me know. Because I'll pull it up. I have it on my computer. If you guys are interested, because it's fucking awesome. But nonetheless, the refs, dude, like they were bad this game. Like, and I'm usually not want to talk like that exactly about the refs. The JFM hold was a very clear hold. The Breece Hall hit on the sideline was a completely missed call where they were about to pull out their flags and they didn't do it. The play on the goal line end of the game was clear encroachment on the defense, where the guy starts like early. Kenny Clark starts a second early, and they don't call it on him. He completely blows up the play because of it. They don't throw the flag. The push off on Alan Lazard, where Alan Lazard is literally boxing out. He's boxing out Brandon Eccles, has full extension, and not only does he have full extension, he has full extension, and then he extends and pushes off, and then goes back to the ball. No push there, no PA. We could out that you noticed, or I pulled up, but there's at least 4 or 5 calls. There's blatant missed calls by the refs.
I was going to hit on like the thing about like push offs and stuff is like, you can almost call it like any play, like, because there's always going to be like a little bit grabbing stuff even past 5 yards. But usually, like, when will refs throw the flag is like, okay, when it's extended. Not only did he have full extension, and this is a 6'5" receiver who has long arms. So like it's fully extended for like a long period of time. So like, I mean, that was like as good of a time ever. And by the way, it wasn't even like congestion. There was no safety over the top or whatever. So it's not like, and it was like, there was nobody even in plain sight. So like, it was so out in the open, and obviously it was a big play. Like, don't give me that shit that a ref didn't see it or whatever. So yeah, the refs were absolute dog shit. I don't know how Breece is clearly like out of bounds. Like, I think like even his foot actually touched out at the time he was hit, or was about to touch out. I mean, clearly he's walking out. I don't know how
his foot hit. Like his foot hit out, and he
that's what I thought.
Up and he got rocked.
Yeah, bullshit. And it's not like the player was like running full speed and then he pulled up and like didn't mean to hit him, but like no, he actually like, okay, like, oh, he's out, and like actually tried to hit him full speed too. So that was bullshit.
Is there
somebody was saying something about like how like Carl Lawson was held a lot of times or whatever, and it wasn't called. I don't remember seeing that specifically on Lawson, but I do remember you pointing out an example of when Q was held, and it wasn't called. Right? I'm pretty sure
JFM was held. I think it was JFM was the bad one maybe it was Q too. But yeah, the JFM one, you have the Alan Lazard touchdown, you have the Breece Hall hit, you had like there was the clear encroachment by Kenny Clark that wasn't called. Like, he was offside, not by like a split second, because I get that. He clearly like stood up and took a step, and then the ball was snapped. I was like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? Because there's a pulling guard there, and he filled that vacated zone, which is already hard.
And that makes me wonder. It makes me wonder, because I'd have to like rewatch it, because I didn't even like fully notice that the first time I was like watching the coach's film, but I was like, oh wow, Kenny Clark beast on the goal line. Like, it's the immediate thought that came to my head. Yeah. But he blew up several plays on the goal line. It makes me wonder, like, at least 2 of them, he had such a huge impact. Maybe he was offsides or encroachment on both of them. I'm not really sure, but maybe. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Usually, I mean, that level of
then,
penetration that quickly, you usually don't see it on the goal line. But one way that can happen is if you're moving before the offensive lineman is allowed to. So anyway.
Swolesy brings up the chop block, also a bad call. Frankie brings up Elijah Moore situation. What happened? I don't know what happened. Elijah Moore. I'm just kidding. Yeah, we touched on it for a freaking hour. So just go back and
totally
rewind
unexpected
it.
too.
Yeah. The ocean call, the running. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Al, your opinion on this matters. Bijan, I haven't watched any college really, like in terms of prospects and stuff like that. So I'll
tell you this: Breece Hall likes
Breece.
Bijan Robinson, because I remember somebody had tweeted out like a list of like top college prospect running backs, and I saw Breece Hall quote tweeted. This is like several weeks ago, if not like a month plus, and he said any list that doesn't have Bijan Robinson as number one is wrong. So I know that Breece likes him, but I mean, and I am a Texas fan. Unfortunately, like I wish I could watch more college football than I do. I've seen him run a little bit and stuff, and I know he's good. Listen, we've had some good running backs at the University of Texas. I can say Ricky Williams, Jamal Charles, Cedric Benson was really good. I mean, like I know he had a disappointing pro career, but he was still pretty good in the pros. Just never lived up to the fourth overall pick hype. Anyway.
Did you see, by the way, that Sauce? I don't know if he's on like Twitch or whatever gaming site he's on, but like there's a picture of him in his room, and it says like you just see the rookie of the week and the cheesehead behind him. Like,
yeah, I saw that.
Gotta love
that
him.
Was cool.
Gotta love him.
He's a fun kid, and I tweeted out like after the game was over, like watch Jets are going to get a decent amount more primetime games this year, and dude, it's been forever since they had a Sunday night football game. I don't know if they'll get one of those next year, depending on how they finish this season. I suppose they could. But I'm telling you, he's going to be a big reason they get more primetime games, because like not only is he a great player on the field, but he does have kind of like a larger than life personality, and the NFL loves that shit.
Yeah. So, and this is it's from Swolesy. Sauce doesn't really jam guys either. It's technique thing. It's his feet are too shallow. His base is too narrow. He stands too straight up, and he hops back a lot. So it's a lot about stance and a lot about just him being confident in shuffling. When he does shuffle and he does get hands on guys, that he's absolutely locked down. But I'm telling you right now, and it's why like Nani puts up that every week of like the guys that he locked down are covered in sauce. There's a reason why Cooper caught a couple balls on him. It's because when guys know that you're going to open up with the way he does, they're going to take advantage of you. So guys like Diggs, Jefferson coming up in the next couple of weeks or whatever we play them are going to take advantage of him opening up too soon. So he's going to get beat a couple of times versus those guys. He's going to go back to the film. He's going to evaluate, okay, which I don't know how they don't already know this shit, but like get some shuffles in. And I'm not talking about like completely square to the line of scrimmage shuffles. You don't have to do that. You can open the gate a little bit and shuffle because he has the length to do so, where it's not really like it's not too far for him to reach. But how many times, like you saw on the film, Kyle, that I showed, like how narrow is that base and how much does he jump back? If he were to get shuffles in, he could be truly elite. So he might get diced up a little bit by Diggs if he's going to run drags and slants and stuff like that versus him. Because
I might sound stupid saying this, but I almost feel like his technique, from what I saw in the college games that I watched and evaluated, was a little bit more solid than what I'm seeing so far in his young pro career. And again, it could be a matter of
it could be confidence.
It could be a matter of like, okay, like, well, he's still getting the terminology down of the coverages and stuff, and he's thinking about too much stuff pre-snap that it kind of just throws off your technique a little bit. That's what I would assume that it is. But like in terms of, first of all, I saw him jamming people more in college, which that's not really necessarily a technique thing. It's what the coaches are telling him to do. I did see more of that. So like to say that he doesn't jam people, like I haven't seen enough of it in the NFL, but his college tape is like he was mugging receivers. Obviously they're inferior talent and stuff, but and like staying square, it wasn't a huge problem for him in college. He did it all the time. Like he that's one of the reasons I really liked him. I was like, and you thought his technique was really clean too. Like, because that's one of your biggest things. Like, okay, this guy's opening up too. He's not staying square enough. That was not a problem Sauce had in college.
And again, listen, he is probably a top 10 corner league right now. We're talking about bringing him from 10 to number 1. We're just talking about how to make him truly elite. How can he get better? But with that being said, coaching, I think Mike LaFleur did a pretty good job. Solid, blah blah blah, all good. Refs terrible. Two more topics from the Broncos. Oh, we'll do one more topic.
Hey,
Broncos game.
I just texted you a video. It seems like it's some clip from one of the Jets games. I'm not sure which one. It could be a preseason game or whatever, but it looks like Elijah Moore's pissed off and AVT's trying to console him or talk to him, and he's not like really listening. I didn't listen to it yet because someone just put it on Twitter, and I'm obviously talking to you, but I just texted it to you. I don't know if you want to watch that, and maybe we could even put it on the screen since Elijah Moore is such a big topic tonight. But if you don't want to, we don't have to do that either. But anyway, I didn't want you.
This looks like a preseason game because we haven't wore green this year at all. So is it a preseason game?
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't watch it.
It's not really. It's he drops his helmet, and then Elijah Vera Tucker goes and picks up his helmet and like gives him back his helmet. He's like gives him back his helmet. So it wasn't anything like crazy. Okay. I'll if you guys want to pull it up, I'll pull it up. But it really just Okay, it's from last season. But Kyle, let's do updated expectations. I'm going to show the skydiving video. Nobody's responding to it, so I'm just going to show the jump at least. I got to show the jump. The jump was fucking awesome. it was awesome.
Yeah, sure.
I'm showing it. And then we'll talk about
I've always wanted to go.
But
I've always wanted to go. I'll be honest, I'm a little scared, but I would do it. But my wife definitely doesn't want to go with me.
I didn't tell my, and that's like part of the thing. Like they do like a little interview before. They show like the fly up, and they show like, I think when the parachute comes out, like in the full video, which I could show too, you hear like the end of a Jets chant. Like I did a Jets chant while I was up in the air. I even did Jets chant while I was falling, but they didn't show that in the Sauce jersey. But dude, like we were drinking a little bit on Friday, and we were all like kind of like whatever. Like we were bored, like not bored. We were having a good time. But what are we gonna do tomorrow? There's not a lot to do in Wisconsin. I was like, dude, let's fucking go skydiving. Let's just do it. Like everybody says they're gonna do it, and then nobody ever does it. Let's just do it. And then like Vinny signed up, and a couple people signed up. Vinny bitched out in the morning. He's like, nope, not doing it. And then we went, but like going up in the plane, they kind of like at a certain point they like slow down the rotors, and then like you're going up like really like at a high like I don't know, like you're going up quick, and like it levels out and you drop, and then you start to waddle to the door, and your feet are hanging out the door, and you're just looking, and you're like rocking to go out, and you're like 14,000 feet up. Holy shit, it is crazy. You first jump out, your you're going straight down, like you're not level. You level out initially, but it's that first 3-4 seconds is exhilarating. It is crazy.
My younger brother went about maybe like a year and a half ago or something like that, year and a couple months ago. Yeah, and he was telling me like you have to sign all these waivers and stuff. By the way, you can pull it up. I'm not trying to hold you up or whatever.
No. I'm working on expectations first.
He was like telling me like some of the statistics or whatever, and it's like I forget what they are, but it's like probably like a decent percentage. And I'm not trying to say anything high, like maybe like 2% or 1%. Maybe it's like 1% or something, like or a little bit less than 1%. It's not a small number though, like of skydiving attempts end in fatalities or something like that. So it's probably something like definitely under 1%, but it's like
I hope it's under 1%.
It's something like way higher than like any other like extreme thing. Like like when I heard that number, I was like, okay, I get it. Like there's a great chance nothing will happen to you, but I don't like those odds. You know?
Like people do it like thousands of times and never happens. So if it happens, it happens. But like the thing was like waking up next morning and we're like, holy shit, we're actually doing it. And you're signing waivers, and it's like, you could die because of this. You could die because of this. You could die because of this. And you're like, okay. So it was nerve wracking. And I always thought they packed 2 parachutes. I don't think they packed 2 parachutes. I didn't see 2 parachutes go into there. So that was interesting. But before we get to the Broncos game, and I'll show the video quickly, updated expectations, Kyle. I predicted 8-9. 7 to 8 wins.
I said 7, 8, 9. On the screen. Put the schedule on the screen.
So with that being said, Kyle, do you have updated expectations? Like I don't know I think you predicted 8-9 as well. If they were to finish 8-9 at this point in the season, would you be disappointed?
Yes. At this point in the season, yes. Although this Elijah Moore thing is, it's throwing me for a loop a little bit. If we lose him and we get nothing in return that's going to help us this season, I don't see how we're a better team. I truly don't. So I want to look at the whole schedule, and I feel like we should just do it together while it's on the screen.
Oh, you want to go over the schedule?
Why not? You're asking me about it.
That's the wrong one. That's the Broncos depth chart.
That's the Broncos depth chart.
Yeah.
But pull it up, dude. 4-2 at this point. A decent chunk of their schedule has, of their what we thought would be the tough portion of the schedule. People like Brady Quinn are saying, "Oh, the Jets are going to start 0-9." Well, guess what? They're 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
I will obviously get into the Broncos game, but I'm predicting a Jets win. Patriots. It seems like Mac Jones is going to be back for that game. Patriots defense seems like it's solid, right? Like they never seem to miss a beat. Like, yeah, they might have some off years or whatever where, yeah, sure. That 2018 Patriots defense looked like those early years where Brady and Belichick won their first 3 Super Bowls, where that defense was really strong. They're obviously not that, but they're still fucking good. Okay, so let's talk about this. All right, Denver. We don't play well there. We got shut out twice in the past 5 seasons. Shut out last year. We were shut out the Josh McCown 2017 year. I watched that game with you at your place, if you remember. We lost to Tim Tebow in 2011 in Denver. And in 2010, we played Denver. A year we went to the AFC Championship game. We barely won that game. It was Demaryius Thomas' rookie year. I remember he caught a sideline pass against Revis. Anyway, so we don't play well in Denver. That's a fact. But I also think that some of that stuff is a little bit overblown. It's different players and stuff. Granted, last year,
different team, yeah,
and different coaching too in Denver too. So I think this is a very winnable game. I'll say win there. So that's 5-2 versus New England at home. I picked us to win that game preseason. I'm not going to change that. I'll say 6-2. Buffalo, I'll say that's a loss. 6-3. At New England, I'm gonna say that's a loss. 6-4 versus Chicago. I don't see how I could pick the Bears.
Dude, I went to the Bears game. If they lose to the Bears, we got problems. I'm gonna agree with everything you said so far, though. 7-4.
Okay, 7-4 against the Bears. All right, at Minnesota. See, this one's a little tough. I feel like Minnesota shouldn't be this good. I don't think they're as good as 5-1. This one's tough. It is in Minnesota. Oh man. I'm gonna say Jets win. Fuck it. 8-4. And again, I'm not thinking about matchups. And the NFL is a game of matchups, right? Like people always wonder, well, how did you beat this team but lose to this team? It's about matchups. I'm not really thinking about it on that kind of level right now. At Buffalo, I'll say it's a loss. So that's what, 8-5, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay. Versus Detroit, I'll say it's a win. That's 9. Versus Jacksonville, I'll say win. I'll say win. Okay. And then I'll say they lose these last 2.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. Like even if you want to say, okay, they lose in Miami, they split with them, they split with New England, let's give them a loss in Minnesota. We're talking about a team that should, at least in my opinion, should win 9 or 10 games. Anything less than 9 or 10 games at this point, I will be disappointed. So my expectations have gone up at least a game. I was asking before the bye week to be 4-5, and if they go into the bye week at 6-4, or no, it'd be 6-3, right? Yeah, 6-3. Yeah. Like they should at least win another 3 or 4 games. So yeah, I think I went from 7-8 or 8-9 more to 9 or 10 wins at this point, and 9 or 10 wins should get you into the wild card in the AFC right now. So like you're looking at this like, okay, we could talk about even if you want to talk about I don't really see a lot of terribly hard games after you got Buffalo. Obviously, Buffalo, they could easily win in Miami. They could do that again. They could beat Seattle. They could beat Jacksonville. They could beat Detroit. So.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Miami, that's in January, so it's not going to be as hot. Like the big heat advantage that Miami has, always practicing in that heat, they're not going to have that big of advantage. So, and dude, Geno Smith, I know he's playing much better than what we expected, but he's still Geno, man.
Yeah. So 9 or 10 wins. So that we're saying anything less than that, we're going to be disappointed. 8 wins at this point. Only 4 more rest of the season. When you have teams like Jacksonville, the Bears, the Lions on the schedule, I would be very disappointed with 8 wins.
Yeah, I will be disappointed if it's anything less.
All right. I'm going to pull up this video really quick. I'm just going to do the shorter version. And then we'll do the Broncos. We'll expedite a little bit.
I think I did see the shorter version. I think you posted the shorter version.
No, I did. I think I put up the highlight. I didn't put up the actual just jump video. Oh, is it side? It might be. Let me see if it's going to be sideways. I don't know why this is in a weird version. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, I'll pull it up. Video file. Recents. Skydive jump. Can you?
Turn us to thousands, and we'll grow in number. Fueled by them to see the horizon. Turn us to thousands. And on we'll go.
You don't seem scared.
Through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And
Anything after that, dude? Terrified though. Like it was, I just tweeted out. I was like, by the way, going skydiving tomorrow in a Sauce shirt. I was like, fuck, I actually got to do it now. And like I said in the full thing, like they asked like, oh, how does your family feel about it? I was like, my family doesn't know because I didn't want to tell my wife and like her to worry for a whole day. So I just called her and I was like, guess what? And she was like, what? I was like, I went skydiving. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? So good time, Kyle. But if you go, I'm down. I'm probably gonna go pretty soon, like an hour and a half south of where I live. So I know I'm gonna go with Tom.
You're gonna go
but
twice
awesome.
in such a short span. Wait, Tom didn't go the first time?
No, with Tom. Tom wants to do it enough where he could jump out by himself. So he's gonna do it at least another 20 times.
You have to go that many times before they allow you to jump out by yourself?
Yeah, I think it's like 10 times with a guy, like 5 times like supervised or something like that. So it's at least 15 to 20 times you got to be with somebody. But yeah, so let's pull up the Broncos.
I'm down to go
schedule.
at some point.
I gotta pull up those percentage numbers that you're talking about. I didn't see those. I wasn't trying to Google that after I booked it.
I might be off with like how high I made it sound, but I'm just telling you, like, it's like, I get it. Like sometimes people have like an irrational fear of heights. Like my mom's like really scared of heights to the point where like she won't go to like the top seat of a bleachers in like a football game or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like I get it, like you're high up and heights don't equal like being unsafe or something like that. But like skydiving, like the way that my brother like was telling me the statistics, and I know he wasn't making this up, it's like it's higher than you'd think. It was higher than I thought it was. So that's like the point I'm trying to make. Okay, so here we got the Denver Broncos roster. And Joe, if you actually scroll down a little bit, look at their IR. Like we're catching them on a break right now. Go down more. Like look at all the players on IR. So Tim Patrick, you know, he's one of their better receivers. And they got Darby, Garrett Bowles. Garrett Bowles, listen, he played a really solid game against us last year.
Oh, what are they going to do without Tom Compton?
Yeah, Javonte Williams, who you know, I think he didn't have a good year. Like he wasn't killing it this year, but I think he's a stud at running back. Randy Gregory, Gregory's, you know, I feel like that was a really good signing for them. So you know they got some, and I get it. The Jets have injuries. Every team has injuries, but you know those are some difference makers for them. They did get Simmons back though, so that's pretty big for them because he missed like the last well, I know he played last week, but the previous like 3-4 games. But anyway, I look at the receivers, Joe. I know that you are a huge Jerry Jeudy fan, but honestly, are we really that scared of the receivers? I feel like Sutton's a little bit overrated. Honestly,
yeah,
KJ Hamler.
He's been disappointing, Jerry Jeudy. He just drops everything at this point. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm not terrified of Jeudy. Like considering we played like the Hills and Waddles and Jamar Chases and all these guys of the world, none of Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, who if he does line up on Sauce's side at any point, like that's a perfect matchup for him. If I was the Broncos, I would probably line him up on the left side of the offense and have him go against a guy in DJ Reed more than Sauce because Sauce is a perfect matchup for him. And talking about either Jeudy or Hamler in the slot, again, not terrified, especially, you know, Michael Carter has been solid in there. And then past that, Tyreek Cleveland, Kendall Hinton, like I'm not afraid of their receivers. And then with that, you pair that with an offensive line group. And this is like some of the points where I wish I had Nani because like he has all the numbers on these guys. He does all the research, but like, it's not a good group. I know they're giving up pressure. You have Calvin Anderson, Dalton Risner, Lloyd Cushenberry, Quinn Miners, and Cameron Fleming. Like you have some names like people recognize. Miners, Cushenberry was like a 5th round pick. Risner was an earlier pick.
I think Cushenberry was a 3rd round pick. Miners is a D3 guy, but apparently, like you know, some people really liked him or whatever. And you know, we were shitting on them. Apparently, his PFF grade was like a 90 or something like that. Okay, I don't think he's that good of a player. Whatever. Reisner has showed some things. Calvin Anderson, I know he says that apparently he was on our practice squad or whatever. I do not remember this guy at all. No idea who that guy is. Calvin Anderson.
Yeah, I think it was last year. I'm pretty sure he was on the practice squad. But it's again, you have Calvin Anderson going against Carl Lawson. So this would be a Lawson breakout game, and I don't care if Risner, Cushenberry, or Miners are even playing okay. I'm fully expecting the combination of Rankins, JFM, and Q to eat these guys' lunch, and then Cam Fleming too is like another guy who I haven't really heard of. So you're anticipating whether it be Huff or JFM on that side, they should be able to put up some good numbers.
He was never very. I mean, like apparently he
Franklin.
was on the Giants previously, and I know that he started his career with the Patriots. He was like a 4th-round pick by the Patriots. I was never impressed whenever I watched him with the Patriots, and there's a reason why they let him go, despite have really good offensive line coaching over there. So I don't think there's nothing to be worried about with him. This guy Dolchich is a 3rd-round pick for them. I know he had a touchdown in this previous primetime game that they were in, but I really don't know much about him.
But Dolchich, Eric Tomlinson, like Albert Ogwegabom, whatever his name was supposed to be like the starter, and he's apparently completely fallen off. They're not even really.
I don't even know how Tomlinson's still on a roster, man, because I feel like when he was here with us, he was supposed to be like a good blocking tight end, but he wasn't even good at that.
I don't know. Gronk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. I forgot about that. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's playing the worst I've ever seen in his career, and now he has a hammy injury. So, like, you figure, okay, even if he does manage to play somehow, okay, he's gonna have some hamstring soreness. You don't expect him to run around as much as he would normally. So that means he's gonna have to beat you from the pocket, but he's not seeing things properly. He's not seeing the middle of the field and other things. He's not even hitting throws. So are we even really worried about him? And dude, honestly,
I still rather play Brett Rippon. I know people are saying they'd rather play Russell Wilson. I'd rather play Brett Rippon than Russell Wilson. Like,
of course.
Yes. And then past that, you got Melvin Gordon and Latavius
disgruntled
Murray.
Melvin Gordon.
Yes. Still didn't request a trade though, Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, right.
I'm like one of our own. So the offense, I am not scared in any way of this offense. And you look
they've been bad like every game. Have they even had like, okay, so the Jets have had a couple bad offensive games. Like Baltimore was a bad offensive game. Cincinnati was a bad offensive game. Teams have bad games. Has this team had one good offensive game? I know they put up like 20-something points against the Raiders.
This is the thing too. Like, and their people are talking about their defense and like their schedule. Seahawks, they lost 17-16. They beat the Texans 16-9. They beat the Niners 11-10. They lost to the Raiders 32-23. They lost to the Colts 12-9. They lost to the Chargers 19-16. So their offense isn't producing. And like, yeah, the defense is good, and we're gonna go over the defensive talent they have, but they also have the benefits of playing teams, like the Texans and like the Colts, who look like absolute shit in that Thursday game. So we'll talk about the defense, but I'm not. It's I think they're very good, but I think they've had the benefit of not playing very good teams. And like you said, with the offense, they're not putting up numbers at all, not playing great defenses on top of that. And you have Russell Wilson, who's now injured, and part of his draw is his mobility. And you take that away, and they just lost, and you have disgruntled guys in the locker room. I think this is a game where you're hoping the defense can let up no more than 14 points for the Jets.
And honestly, like, I was very surprised with the Nathaniel Hackett hiring. So if you remember, Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator a couple of years in Buffalo, went back when they had Doug Marrone. And then Doug Marrone ended up not staying in Buffalo, and he went down to Jacksonville. He was the offensive coordinator in Jacksonville with Marrone too. And I know Buffalo fans hated him, Hackett. And I know, so he kind of had like a resurgence of his career, if you will, being with LaFleur, and Aaron Rodgers those couple of years in Green Bay. But it's like, how much of it was on LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers? Apparently Aaron Rodgers speaks very highly of the guy. This might be one of those situations where like Peyton Manning talked up Adam Gase. And it might seem like, Aaron Rodgers might be the reason why Hackett got a head coaching job when maybe really he doesn't deserve it. I was surprised with the hiring, to say the least.
Now, and by the way, we didn't talk about special teams with the Jets. The Jets special teams money, but nonetheless, reading over their defense relatively quickly because I got to get out of here pretty soon. The defensive line is pretty strong. Draymond Jones, DJ Jones, a guy we wanted from San Fran. Delshawn Williams, I'm not overly familiar with. Baron Browning, who they drafted as a linebacker, but he's playing more as a rusher now. And he's been pretty productive. It's been for a short stint. But then the more stand-up guy, and Bradley Chubb, who's also a really good rusher. I think he's like 5 sacks this year. So pretty damn strong defensive front. And then, but on top of that, you have guys like Josie Jewell, who I think is going to be out this game. So you're looking at Alex Singleton, Jonas Griffith,
And one of their linebackers
Justin
just tore his
Sarn.
ACL in the
I
previous
think it's
game.
Josie Jewell. Might be Josie Jewell.
I don't think it was Jewell.
Okay, well, he's already out, and another guy tore his ACL.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it was Jewell though,
Mhm.
but I'll double check that.
Yeah, so really strong defensive front minus the linebackers, and then the secondary is really good. At least have a couple of standout guys. Pat Surtain is playing like the best corner in the NFL, at the minimum top 5. You have
Simmons is like a top 5 free safety. Kareem Jackson, what an interesting kind of career arc for him. Like, you know, he was a corner. He was drafted, I think, 2010, 2011. I want to say 2010 Texans. Was a pretty good corner, but now like he's almost playing like he almost seems like he was a better safety than corner. Kind of like
he's solid at the minimum. He's very solid.
He's very good at filling in the run game. You know, from coming on high. Kwan Williams, you know, wasn't he a pretty big free agent signing in the nickel? I mean,
I know he's had a lot of injuries and stuff, so maybe he didn't get a big contract, but I know when he's healthy, he's pretty solid. And we wanted him from San Fran with the whole Salah connection.
Yeah.
The only guy I really see that's worth attacking in the secondary is Damari Mathis, who's I believe a rookie from, is it Bama? Is he a rookie from? Yeah. So in terms of like the defense and Nani put up some of these numbers, and the Jets have been going up each week with their 12 personnel. I could pull out the numbers. It's week 1 it was 17.7. Week 2 was 19.7. Week 3 was 11.8. Week 4 was 19.4. Week 5 versus Miami, it was 21.4, and then week 6 at Green Bay, it was 34%. But he wrote an article, and the Broncos, their run defense is more like a middle of the pack run defense, but against 12 personnel and against heavier personnel sets, because their defensive front is so strong, they are very, very good against the run if you're running heavy personnel. If you're running more 10, 11, that's where they struggle. So you want to get in lighter personnel, run to the outside if you are going to run, not to the strength of this defensive front in the middle. So I want to see a lot of misdirection. I want to see a lot of end arounds. I want to see a lot of getting to the edges. And then in terms of the pass game, if you are going to pass it, you know, I don't think we necessarily want to attack guys like Surtain and test guys like Kareem Jackson, all this stuff deep down the field. So to me, it's going to be a running game to the outside. And I think this is a game where you want Conklin to break out versus some of these less than ideal stand-up backers for the Broncos.
I like that game plan. I do like that game plan for sure. Yeah. So, okay. Run to the outside. Run more 11 personnel. So going back to your thing about benching Elijah Moore this week. Okay. A week where you plan on going more 11 personnel, whereas the previous couple of weeks you ran a lot more 12.
Mims Hive.
Mims Hive? Is that, you really want to do that? A guy who's been sitting on the bench all year?
No, it's Barrios. It's Barrios.
Okay. So you're really still of the opinion bench Elijah Moore this week.
Bench him.
Yeah. All right.
I'll take the hit.
Joe Blewett, big culture guy. By the way, we didn't even mention Nick Bonito, who was a second-round pick for them. I actually kind of liked his college tape. I did watch a game or two of his when evaluating him. Smaller guy. He's maybe like 240, something like that, and not even very tall and not long arms. But, you know, like he's a little twitched up, and, you know, he can hit you with some spin moves and stuff. So no Randy Gregory, but and I've heard from Brandon Thorne that Bradley Chubb is, you know, probably having his best season of his career. So yeah, no, don't test Pat Surtain. So, you know, but so I'm wondering, like, I don't think do they trail Pat Surtain like the way that Jair Alexander, like, so Jair Alexander, they would have played him in the slot. They would have played him on the outside. I don't think that Denver would play Pat Surtain in like the slot and like trail Garrett Wilson, right? Do you have any idea on that?
From what I've heard, like, loosely on Twitter and I've seen on Twitter, they don't travel Surtain.
Okay. So, like, you know, he's like on one side of the field kind of guy. So, you know, it's kind of just like, okay, well, you don't have to look that way. But okay. We're playing Barrios this week. Barrios, let's see if you can earn that contract, man.
Dude, like, at the end of the day, it's not like Elijah Moore is putting up 8 catches for 100 yards. Like, he's putting up pretty much no statistics, and it's not necessarily like drawing heavy coverage where we're needing him. So we're succeeding without him. He doesn't want to be in the team. Fucking bench him. So I know we kind of expedited the Broncos game a little bit in terms of like.
Well, I would like to see. Listen, I would like to see Rucker. If we're going to bench Elijah Moore, I would like to see Rucker activate it. And even if you, okay, let's say you want to go 12 personnel, you don't have to run it from there. right? Like you can give them the illusion. Like, okay, I think Denver's going to be of the opinion the Jets want to run the ball. They want to protect the young quarterback, but you can go from a 12 personnel set and just pass it more. And I would like to have Ruckert activated so that, because I think that honestly, probably the gap between him and receiving with Uzama at this point isn't probably not that much big of a difference. Ruckert hasn't looked very good. Anyway, expedited. You wanted to have closing thoughts or whatever?
No. So give me your score prediction. Like how does the game play out? Like a couple sentences or whatever you want.
I'll say 24 Jets. Was that the number you had?
Yeah,
That's the number you had. 24 Jets, and I'll say 13 Broncos.
Swear to God on my life, it's the same score I had. But with that being said, it's gonna be 2 touchdowns. I was thinking 2 touchdowns, a defensive touchdown for the Jets, and a field goal is how they're gonna get the 24. But I swear to God, I was thinking about it last night. I was like, you know what? I was gonna say like 17-13. I was like, screw it. They're gonna pick off Russell Wilson. Sauce Gardner's gonna get saucy again, and it's defensive touchdowns. So it's like 24-13. Just to give them a couple of extra points. It could be 9. But I think anything more than like 13, 16 points to this Broncos offense that's struggling is going to be a problem. I just want to see the Jets. I want to see the Jets short, intermediate, over the middle, attacking linebackers, keep pounding the run game, not necessarily in the box, up the middle, but more in more to the outside, more end arounds, more sweeps, more outside stuff. So I completely agree. 14-13, that's literally identical. That's quite odd.
Yeah. More swings on different types. I could say that I feel like LaFleur's been pretty creative with like trick plays and trickery and things like that, even dating back to last season. So, okay, this is cut it with the inside zone and the power game.
Oh no, sorry. You have anything else to say about the Broncos? If you have anything else to say,
I was just saying, like and they, dude, I don't know the numbers, but I feel like they were running a ton more inside zone in the first couple weeks, and it just wasn't working. So I don't even think that's like a strength, a Jets running game strength, whatever. So obviously this is not the week to keep pounding it when it's not working. So I feel like LaFleur is going to have some creative ways to get the ball in space. And if Denver is,
zone, I think it takes advantage of Breece Hall's like patience and ability a little bit more than inside zone. We have to hit it a little bit quicker and be a little more decisive. Where outside zone is allowed to be a little more patient, like stretching it out. So.
Okay. I don't know. I think we might have some Denver fans in here because some people are saying we're giving Zach way too much. We're cutting him way too much slack. I don't think that's really the case.
I have a stat to read to you before we close off. And this might be biased because it's per skydivecalifornia.com, but a rate of 0.0006 skydives fatalities per 1,000. That's 1 in every 167,000. So it's not a 1 in a million. It's 1 in 167,000. This means it's more likely you'll die from a lightning strike, dog bite, wasp sting, bike accident, choking, or motor vehicle crash. So
all right, well that's way different from whatever stat my brother told me.
I'm gonna keep researching it, but it's like 1 in. This says 100 or 500,000, so it's not that much.
Yeah, no, that's not bad. I can live with those numbers. But the whole 2 shoot thing, I'm almost positive my brother said they had 2 shoots. If you had 1 shoot, I'd be a little concerned.
So I was, like I said, I was in the like the hangar before, like talking to the guys, hooking us up, all this stuff, talking us through it, like going through the class about what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to fall and whatever. And I was like watching. I was like, I always thought 2 shoots, and unless it's the backup shoot never comes out, so they don't have to repack it. Maybe that's why. But
maybe
nobody ever mentioned anything about a backup shoot. But I would hope it would be there because 1 shoot's sketchy. With that being said,
I'm just surprised you never even asked about it. Like you were wondering it, but you didn't ask. I don't know. How the hell am I going to get up in the plane if I don't ask that? Anyway, Chris says take Elijah Moore skydiving.
with no, I'm not going to say it. But so yeah, Kyle, 3.5 hours. I got to go to sleep before I go to work. Closing thoughts. We'll be back next Thursday, 5, 6 o'clock. Most likely 6 is the normal start time. With hopefully holding a Jets 24-13 dub because we both predicted that. So what are your final thoughts?
Let's enjoy it. 5-2 is going to be sweet, but we got to figure out this Elijah Moore stuff, whether it's going to be a trade or whatever, because this is not good right now. Not good. But 5-2 will make it even sweeter. We can live with that.
5-2 is sweet, Kyle, but 6-2 is even sweeter because that's coming